Chapter 15:18. Blurred. Before he could finish speaking, his entire body exploded into a bloody mist, accompanied by the pungent smell of blood that filled the hall. Dead silence. The hall was dead silent. Fang Beiyuan and his daughter watched the scene with their mouths agape. Old man Tian Mo, who was ranked 4th on the 10 Great Villains leaderboard and had cultivated the primordial soul sword in advance, had died just like that? It had only been a few breaths since Yi Chen attacked. Even Fang Ziyue, who was prepared, could not help but feel shocked at that moment. She already thought that Yi Chen was powerful enough, but she did not expect him to be so powerful that he could kill old man Tian Mo. Yi Chen's clothes were not stained with blood as he looked at Fang Beiyuan quietly. His smile that was like a spring breeze did not seem like he had just killed someone. Chief Fang, I wonder if I can satisfy you? Fang Beiyuan snapped out of his daze when he heard that. He glanced at the scarlet blood on the ground. He then took a deep breath in and bowed to Yi Chen while clasping his fists. Fellow Yi, I failed to recognize you earlier. Please don't blame me. The shock in him was like a flood that had broken the dam. Before this, when had he ever thought that this would be the outcome? Therefore, he could not help but feel ashamed when he recalled his attitude toward Yi Chen earlier. At the same time, he felt lucky. Yi Chen smiled lightly as if he had forgotten about the unpleasantness earlier. We're just taking what we need. It doesn't matter if I blame you or not. When Fang Beiyuan saw his smile, he felt a chill run down his spine. It was usually such people who were the most dangerous. Fellow Yi, please take a seat. He gestured for Yi Chen to sit down as he thought to this point. He then ordered people to serve all sorts of spiritual wine and delicacies. Father, I've already told you. The reason why I asked Senior Yi to be our external help is because I have absolute confidence in his strength. Fang Ziyue winked at Fang Beiyuan playfully and smiled slyly. You should believe me now, right? You little girl, you're trying to embarrass me in front of Fellow Yi, said Yi Zichen. Fang Beiyuan glanced at her helplessly. He then picked up his wine glass and said to Yi Chen, Fellow Yi, a toast to you to apologize for my rudeness earlier. With that, he drained the cup in one gulp. Yi Chen finished the wine in the cup while smiling. As soon as the wine entered his stomach, it was like a trickle, causing the spiritual power in his body to grow slightly. He couldn't help but say in surprise, Good wine. If this Yi didn't guess wrongly, this is a precious monkey wine among wines. Moreover, it's a supreme-grade monkey wine brewed by the three-eyed fire ape race. The moment he said that, Fang Ziyue and her father could not help but look at each other. They could see a trace of shock in each other's eyes. In the end, it was Fang Ziyue who said with a smile, Senior Yi is knowledgeable. This is indeed supreme-grade monkey wine. My Heavenly Essence Merchant Association traded with the three-eyed fire ape race in the outer realm. We don't have much in store, and my father usually can't bear to drink it himself. Even though we don't have much in reserve, we can still take out some. Fang Beiyuan could not help but laugh. If fellow Taoist Yi needs it, I'll order someone to give you some before I leave. The reason why the father and daughter were shocked was that very few people in the outer realm knew about the monkey wine. Yi Chen accepted it gladly. Subsequently, he seemed to have thought of something and said while smiling, Clan Leader Fang, will I really not bring you any trouble by killing old man Tian Mo? There's some trouble, but it's not a big problem. Fang Beiyuan's expression relaxed slightly as he said, Fellow Yi, you might not know this, but old man Tian Mo actually has an elder brother called Tian Xiezi. He's the leader of the 10 villains, a void refinement old monster. Void refinement? Yi Chen said. That's right. Fang Beiyuan nodded lightly. It's said that Tian Xiezi and old man Tian Mo entered a tomb by chance and obtained the inheritance. Tian Xiezi's aptitude is the best, so he entered void refinement before old man Tian Mo. At this point, he said in a deep voice, therefore, Tian Xiezi's reputation among the rogue cultivators in Inshu is extremely high. He has the tendency to be the leader of the rogue cultivators. Even the few on the villain list have to look up to him. It's also because of Tian Xiezi's existence. Fang Ziyue added, the 5 sacred grounds have a soft policy toward the 10 villains. They won't touch them unless they have no other choice. Yi Chen's eyes flickered. I see. Needless to say, Tian Xiezi would find out sooner or later that old man Tian Mo had died in his hand. This meant that he, Yi Chen, would have another void refinement old monster as his enemy from now on. However, he did not care much about that. Tian Xiezi was not the only void refinement old monster he had offended. There were also the Taichu Taoist master, the patriarch of Panwu, and the 8 Xianyuan clans in China. Seeing his expression, Fang Beiyuan thought that he was worried about Tian Xiezi's revenge, so he could not help but say, Fellow Yi, you don't have to worry too much about this. I'll deal with the aftermath of fellow Tian Mo's death. Moreover, Tian Xiezi won't dare to barge into Tianyuan City and make a move. Let's take a step back. He couldn't help but say with a smile, if fellow Yi helps us seize first place in the Desolate God's Tomb, my purple faction will take control of the Desolate God's Tomb, and we will give fellow Yi the identity of a guest elder of my heavenly origin trading company. With this identity, not to mention Tian Xiezi, even the 5 sacred grounds wouldn't dare act rashly. His tone was domineering and confident. That was the foundation of the Tianyuan Trade Association. Yi Chen said while smiling lightly, I know what I'm doing. Subsequently, Yi Chen declined Fang Beiyuan and his daughter's invitation to stay and left the city governor's mansion after the 3 of them chatted about the details of the Desolate God's Tomb. Fang Beiyuan gradually stopped smiling as he watched Yi Chen leave. He turned his head to look at Fang Ziyue behind him. How did you know such a person? Fang Ziyue immediately told him all the details of the martial god's tomb. After hearing that, Fang Beiyuan could not hide the shock on his face. This person actually defeated the martial god's corpse with his physical strength? Father, Senior Yi seems to be a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts. Fang Ziyue gritted her teeth. You have to know that even Elder Ku is no match for the martial god's corpse. This person must be a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts. Fang Beiyuan's eyes shone brightly. Only someone who cultivates both martial Dao and truth cultivation can have such a battle prowess that's comparable to a void refinement old monster. Unfortunately, there's a huge chasm for dual cultivators of magic and martial arts. It's very difficult for them to step into the void refinement stage, and they can only stop at the God transformation stage for the rest of their lives. In a mansion in Tianyuan City. When Yi Chen entered, he was surprised to find that Song Chia was the only one in the house. He did not know where the rest of them were. Master. Song Chia immediately greeted him when he saw him. His expression did not look too good. Yi Chen frowned and said, What happened? With his experience, he naturally guessed that something must have happened. Otherwise, Yang Tian would not have gone out without listening to him. Song Chia took a deep breath in and said, The patriarch got into a conflict with someone at the brothel. The other party has a powerful background, and there are many of them. The patriarch is at a disadvantage, so Uncle Yang brought the people there first. The patriarch fought with someone at the brothel? Yi Chen was a little stunned when he heard that. So the patriarch has been hitting the goose all day long, but he still got pecked by the goose in the end? He did not hesitate anymore. Let's go. Bring me there. P.S. I was going to update 4 times, but there's not enough time, so I can only update 3 times. I'll update 3 times tomorrow. I'll try my best to restore the update. Chapter 15-19. The Immortal Tower was located in the northernmost part of Tianyuan City. It could be said that this was a gold mine. The Immortal Tower was filled with women, and they were female cultivators at that. Their looks were extraordinary, and they were extremely good at seduction, causing many men to fall head over heels for them. On the path of cultivation, not everyone could pursue the path of immortality, and not everyone could survive in the boring and dangerous cultivation world. Therefore, there would always be people who would choose to give up halfway. They would either live in seclusion and become an overlord, establish a cultivation family, marry and have children, nurture their descendants, and try to let their descendants surpass them. Or they would take advantage of their lifespan and enjoy themselves. Women were the #1 poison in the world. Of course, for the women in the brothel, pleasing the customers was also a form of cultivation. Most of them were proficient in the art of harvesting yin to nourish yang. When they had sex with male cultivators, they would silently absorb a portion of their essence energy to increase their own cultivation. Master, they're inside. Song Chia led Yi Chen to an extravagant building, according to the message from Yang Tian. Yi Chen lifted his head and saw a huge pavilion in the distance. It seemed like it was sitting on the clouds. It was shrouded in spiritual mist, and from time to time, he could hear seductive laughter and panting. The voice was extremely charming, causing one's face to flush. Any male cultivator who passed by this place would have fallen for this scene if they had the slightest bit of willpower. Even Song Chia could not help but reveal a strange expression, as if he was bewitched by the voice. Fortunately, he had quite the willpower, and it was just his body that was uncomfortable. At this moment, there were people entering and exiting the Immortal Tower. Most of their cultivation bases were below nascent soul, and most of them were at foundation building. However, Yi Chen was not in a hurry to enter. He stared at the Immortal Tower, and 2 balls of golden flames could be faintly seen in his eyes. Under his pupils, the beautiful Immortal Tower that looked like a paradise on earth no longer existed. Instead, it was replaced by endless resentment, yin energy, evil energy, and other negative energy. Song Chia could not help but ask, "Master, what's wrong? What a great immortal tower!" Yi Chen suddenly smiled and said, "It attracts countless people in the name of a brothel. Not only can it harvest yin to nourish yang, but it can also absorb the 7 emotions and 6 desires. It can even dream back to 1,000 lifetimes. There's actually someone here who knows how to set up this eclipse-stealing formation. Not simple at all. I'd like to see who the old ancestor has offended." He chuckled and took a step forward, leading Song Chia toward the main entrance of the Immortal Tower. Dozens of young girls were divided into 2 groups and stood on both sides of the main entrance. Their black hair was like a waterfall, their snowy arms were like lotus roots, and their sparkling and translucent bodies were accompanied by their charming laughter, attracting passers-by. Yi Chen led Song Chia past the pink skeletons calmly. On the contrary, Song Chia's face was flushed red, as if his Tao heart could not hold on. In his eyes, he only felt that there were fairies dancing in front of him and smiling at him. Every frown and smile was extremely charming. One of the women, with half of her clothes torn off, smiled charmingly and said with a magnetic voice, "Little brother, do I look good?" Song Chia's throat moved, and he subconsciously wanted to go over. Suddenly, a shout sounded in his mind, "B****, are you still not waking up?" In an instant, Song Chia stopped in his tracks and revealed a blank expression. Then, he came to his senses and quickly retreated to Yi Chen's side. He looked at the dozens of women in front of him with lingering fear. Even the dozens of women were shocked. They did not expect Yi Chen to be unaffected by such charm. Then, a voice sounded, "Little brother, since you've come here, it's fate for us. Why are you so resistant?" A woman with a red mole between her brows walked forward leisurely. Her body was slender as she walked toward Yi Chen gracefully. She extended her slender fingers as if she wanted to touch Yi Chen's face. "Humph!" Yi Chen snorted coldly and turned into a thunderclap that landed in her mind. She spat a mouthful of blood and retreated heavily. Her face was extremely pale. "I don't care how you cultivate, but if you continue to not restrain yourself, don't blame me for destroying your cultivation. Yi Chen's gaze was cold as he walked into the immortal tower step by step. With his previous encounter, Song Qie did not dare to look at them anymore. He lowered his head and followed Yi Chen closely. Watching the two of them leave, the woman who was severely injured earlier had a cold gaze and said in a low voice, "This person must be here for the person who calls himself the Patriarch of Hell. Guard this place. I'll report it right away." As soon as he stepped into the immortal tower, the scene before Yi Chen's eyes suddenly changed. It was as if he had stepped into a paradise. The surrounding pavilions were faintly discernible. The spiritual energy was like mist, and there were countless palace maids flying in the air. The strange thing was that there were no men. It was as if the men who had entered earlier had mysteriously disappeared, including Yang Tian and the rest who had arrived earlier. Song Qie also noticed this abnormal change. His expression changed slightly as he said, "Master, this looks like someone has been waiting for me." Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He spread his divine consciousness out in an attempt to spy on the entire immortal tower. However, he realized that the immortal tower was very big. Even his divine consciousness could not cover it completely. From the outside, this immortal tower is only 1,000 square meters in size, but the inside seems to be boundless. A thought suddenly popped into Yi Chen's mind as he thought to this point. He could not help but sneer. "So it's a Sumer Grotto heaven treasure. They're trying to lure me into their trap." Song Qie gravely said, "Master, you mean to say that they were acting against the ancestor and that their real target was you? Whether it's true or not, we'll know once we investigate. Follow me closely and remember to guard your Tao heart. Don't have any distracting thoughts. If I'm not wrong, the master behind this immortal tower is extremely proficient in formations and illusions. If we're not careful, we'll be doomed." Yi Chen shook his head lightly and stepped onto the stairs that led to the second floor. As soon as his feet landed on the first staircase, the scene before him changed again. It turned into a peach blossom forest with blooming peach blossoms and a mountain full of red. There was a blue lake in the peach blossom forest. There seemed to be laughter coming from the lake, and the 1,000-year-old trees beside the lake were covered in colorful dresses. There were dozens of young girls bathing naked in the lake, playing with each other in the water. Occasionally, their jade-like bodies would be revealed, causing one's throat to move. Yi Chen was indifferent to that. He continued moving forward. As he approached, the woman in the lake was completely exposed to the two of them. Many women stood up from the water and smiled at Yi Chen gracefully. "Little brother, the water temperature here is excellent. Why don't you come down and bathe with us?" Song Qie looked over subconsciously and almost lost his Tao heart. He suddenly recalled Yi Chen's words and immediately recited the Diamond Sutra to stabilize his Tao heart. Chapter 15:20. "Little brother, can you hand me my clothes? The pink dress on the leftmost peach tree and the red dude. I'll repay you, little brother, you're so handsome." Waves of blushing voices entered Yi Chen and Song Qie's ears. In the end, Song Qie chose to seal his six senses and used a whip to connect himself to Yi Chen. Yi Chen was indifferent and continued moving forward. Whoosh, 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 the seductive voices lingered in their ears. Subsequently, a few young women stood up. They were naked and walked to Yi Chen shyly. There were still some water droplets on their crystalline bodies. The boundless secular world is but a fleeting cloud. Yi Chen's eyes gleamed as his divine telekinesis transformed. It condensed into a golden long sword in the air, and charged at the young women. "You've ruined my Tao heart, kill!" A woman's face was filled with fear as she was killed on the spot. "If you stand in my way, kill!" With another slash of the sword, another naked woman was destroyed. "How dare you show off in front of me with such insignificant skills? Kill! My will is like a blade, kill! Kill, kill, kill!" In the time of a few breaths, all the charming and seductive women were destroyed, and the voices that caused one's face and ears to flush came to an abrupt end. As the space changed, the scene before Yi Chen returned to the scene of the first floor leading to the second floor of the Immortal Tower. Yi Chen's expression was cold. He turned around and glanced at Song Chia, who had sealed his six senses. He scolded softly, "Idiot, cultivation is to cultivate the heart. If the heart escapes, how can there be any cultivation?" Song Chia seemed to have woken up from a dream. He immediately unlocked his six senses and faced the temptation head-on. He gradually understood what Yi Chen meant. Yi Chen revealed a look of approval and continued leading him forward. The illusion was useless to him, but it was enough to train his disciples' Tao heart. Deep in the Immortal Tower, where the void overlapped, at this moment there were two people in a quiet valley. One of them sat cross-legged and stared at the chess game in front of him without moving for a long time. That person seemed to be a young man, but he had a head of white hair, and there was a mixture of 30% evil and 70% righteousness between his brows. Beside him, there was an extremely beautiful woman standing respectfully. Her appearance was like that of a seductress who had once bewitched an emperor and lost the entire world. Bang, bang, bang! At that moment, black pieces exploded one after another on the chessboard, turning into dust that scattered in all directions. "This person has such a strong killing intent." The white-haired young man stared blankly at the incomplete chessboard, and a look of shock appeared on his face. My methods didn't affect him at all. The peerless beauty by his side was also slightly shocked, and then she said softly, "Tao Master, do you want me to act?" "No need." The young man interrupted him with a wave of his hand. "This person is obviously someone who is wholeheartedly devoted to the Tao and doesn't have any distracting thoughts. Moreover, based on his killing intent, he's a person who kills decisively. It's useless even if you go there. No wonder Qianxia Wuhan is interested in him." When he thought up to here, he chuckled. "In this way, it seems like my subsequent methods have always been useless. Ling Long, open the heavenly gate and invite this fellow Taoist in." He smiled faintly. The woman named Ling Long could not help but be stunned when she heard that. After so many years, this was the first time her master had opened the heavenly gate and invited someone in. "Understood," Ling Long responded. Her body distorted and she disappeared on the spot. On the 9th floor of the Immortal Tower, Yi Chen led Song Chia to the 9th floor step by step. To his surprise, there were no obstructions on the remaining 8 floors after the first illusion. Song Chia glanced at the sealed wall in front of him, and his heart was in turmoil. "Master, I think we've reached the top." At that moment, he finally realized that someone might have really set up a trap to lure Yi Chen in. Since that was the case, he was not worried about the identities of the Patriarch of Hell and the rest. Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back and suddenly shouted, "Mad Southern Yi from China is here to pay a visit to the Master of the Immortal Tower." Boom, boom, boom! As soon as he said that, the wall in front of everyone slowly opened from the inside. Then, a woman in a silk dress walked out slowly with a lantern in her hand. The moment he saw the woman, Song Chia could not help but be dazed. He could not be blamed for losing his composure, but the woman was just too beautiful. On the other hand, Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Void refinement stage. The existence in front of him, who looked like a maidservant with a lantern, was actually at void refinement stage. Moreover, she was stronger than Elder Ku beside Feng Ziyue. Ling Long carried the lantern and took a good look at Yi Chen. She said in a natural and unrestrained manner, "Fellow Yi, my master invites you." At the same time, Song Chia snapped out of his daze. He could not help but feel ashamed and hurriedly shifted his gaze away, not daring to look at Ling Long again. "All right." Yi Chen nodded lightly and walked into the open wall under Ling Long's lead. Only Song Chia said worriedly, "Master, be careful of a trap." His worry was not unreasonable. The reason why the master behind the Immortal Tower had set up such a trap to lure Yi Chen here was not as simple as meeting him. "Don't worry." Yi Chen shook his head with his hands behind his back and followed Ling Long closely. From the looks of it, the master of the Immortal Tower did not have any hostility toward him. All the methods he used were illusions, and he did not have any strong hostility. Of course, even if the other party was hostile, Yi Chen was not afraid at all. After about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Ling Long led the two of them into a quiet valley. At the entrance of the valley, Ling Long suddenly stopped in her tracks. She glanced at Song Chia and said to Yi Chen, "Fellow Yi, my master only wants to see you. Please wait here." Hearing that, Song Chia's expression changed slightly. "Wait for me here," Yi Chen instructed and subsequently stepped into the valley. The valley was very quiet. It was not as quiet as it seemed on the surface, but when one was in it, one's body and mind could not help but calm down. In the end, Yi Chen's gaze landed on a courtyard above the valley. The courtyard was extremely ordinary. It was made of green bricks and green tiles, as if it was a remote place in China. Outside the courtyard, there was a stone pavilion. At that moment, a young man in a Taoist robe was sitting in the stone pavilion. There was no aura on the young man at all. He looked very ordinary. However, Yi Chen could feel that there seemed to be a divine furnace in his body. It was as if it could explode at any time and destroy the world. The young man slowly turned around and looked at him like a spring breeze. His voice was magnetic. "Esteemed guest, you've come from afar. Please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." After saying that, he immediately made a gesture of invitation. Yi Chen did not mind. He walked forward casually and sat on a stone stool opposite him. There was only a stone table between them. Only then did he look at the former and say, "You've painstakingly lured me here just to meet me?" Chapter 15:21. The man in the pavilion looked to be in his 20s. He was very young, but there seemed to be a hint of frivolity between his brows, making people subconsciously think that he was a playboy. As Yi Chen sat down, the woman who led the way earlier walked into the distance with a lantern in her hand. The lantern in her hand seemed to be extraordinary as it shuttled through the air. Soon, she returned and served Yi Chen a cup of tea. Then, she stood respectfully behind the young man without looking sideways. The young man smiled lightly when he heard what Yi Chen said. "What if I say that the reason why I set up so many tricks is simply to meet you, fellow Yi? Would you believe me?" "It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not." Yi Chen looked at him and said with a burning gaze, "Fellow, I believe you know why I'm here this time. How's my friend?" He did not check the other party's cultivation base. This was because he could tell from the void refinement woman behind him that this person was probably a top existence in Yin-Su. The only one who could threaten him was probably the existence in the demon god forest that Yang Tian and the entire Yin-Su feared. "Don't worry, fellow. They're safe and sound." The young man nodded and said, "Moreover, with fellow Ye's decisive personality, if I hurt them in the slightest, it'll be difficult for us to reconcile today." With that, he could not help but smile and say, "I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Chu Zhongtian." "So it's fellow Chu." Yi Chen nodded lightly. "The name Chu Zhongtian is too far away." Chu Zhongtian's gaze was filled with vicissitudes as if he was sighing. "It's so long ago that I can't remember when I mentioned it to anyone. However, that guy from the demon god forest called me the path of carnal desires." "Path of carnal desires?" Yi Chen's eyes flashed when he heard that. "You're walking the path of carnal desires." There were 3,000 great paths and 800 unorthodox paths in the world of cultivation. Some people became saints by studying, while others became immortals by chopping trees day after day. They all had their own paths and cultivation path. These great paths were all about staying away from the mortal world, living in seclusion, away from the 7 emotions and 6 desires, and the mortal world. However, the path of man-desire was the exact opposite of this. The path of man-desire focused on getting close to the mortal world, the 7 emotions and 6 desires, especially women. However, the path of desire was too difficult. The slightest carelessness would cause one to be bewitched by external objects. Moreover, it was not tolerated by the world. Thus, after countless years, it was very difficult for a person to achieve great success in the path of desire. It was hard to imagine that the person in front of him, who was dressed in a Taoist robe and looked like a Taoist expert, actually walked the path of human desire. Fellow Taoist, you also know of the Tao of human desires? Chu Zhongtian looked at him in surprise. His eyes flickered a few times, then he said, "That's right. I walk the path of human desires. To me, if cultivating to become an immortal requires one to have a clear heart and few desires, then I don't mind cultivating to become an immortal." Outsiders say that Mad Southern Yi is a native of Earth and a desolate descendant of the celestial burial planet. However, looking at it now, I beg to differ. At this point, he took a good look at Yi Chen. If I'm not mistaken, fellow Yi has probably been to the spirit realm of the colossal world before, right? Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat, but he looked at him calmly and said, "Could it be that fellow Chu is from the spirit realm?" His words tacitly confirmed the former's guess. Chu Zhongtian smiled faintly, not surprised at all. The woman named Ling Long beside him said indifferently, "The sect master guards the spirit realm's human desire realm. He's one of the only 8 tribulation stage almighties in the spirit realm." Tribulation stage. Yi Chen's eyes flashed. I didn't expect fellow Chu to have such a great background. However, it's unbelievable that someone of your status would sit down and talk to me so politely. In the spirit realm, an existence like the tribulation stage was practically the most powerful existence. Even though there was still the Mahayana stage above the tribulation stage, the Mahayana stage was not considered a stage. Instead, it was a transitional stage between immortals and the tribulation stage. In the late stage of the tribulation stage, when everything was ready, one would take the initiative to sense the 99 heavenly tribulation. Once one passed the heavenly tribulation, they would advance to the Mahayana stage. This was the feedback of the heavenly Tao. It was similar to giving cultivators time to settle their affairs. After settling their affairs, the Mahayana stage cultivator could release his aura and take the initiative to sense the immortal light. Then, he would step into the immortal world through the immortal bridge. Before this, Yi Chen knew that Chu Zhongtian had a powerful background and was not weak. However, he still did not expect the former to be a tribulation stage almighty in the spirit realm. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind as he thought to this point. A mere earth was able to attract a tribulation stage cultivator. Secondly, since Chu Zhongtian was a tribulation stage almighty, then the one in the demon god forest must be one too. No wonder the entire Yin Su was extremely afraid of the latter. As if sensing his guess, Chu Zhongtian said calmly, "Fellow Yi, you're right. Qianxia Wuhan is also from the spirit realm. However, he's a tribulation stage almighty from the wood spirit clan. This person is a demon, but he imitates the human race to study poetry, so he's more reasonable." "The one in the heavenly tomb?" Yi Chen frowned. "The heavenly tomb?" Chu Zhongtian's eyes flashed as he said fearfully, "I'm not sure about that person's background, but Qianxia Wuhan and I rarely interact with him. It's because this person has a strange personality. He can even be said to be eccentric. This person came to the Yin Su earlier than us. I don't know why he died, but he preserved his divinity, so he could only stay in the heavenly tomb." "Right." He seemed to have thought of something and said to Yi Chen with a faint smile, "The master of the desolate god's tomb that you're going to attack tomorrow, Old Man Great Desolation, is also a tribulation stage almighty." "Even him?" This time, Yi Chen was also shocked. "That's right." Chu Zhongtian nodded slightly and suddenly sighed. However, this old man was unlucky and completely died in the Yin Su. It's not an exaggeration to say that his soul has been destroyed. It was extremely difficult to cultivate to their level. Even though Old Man Great Desolation did not get along with them when he was alive, it was inevitable that they would feel sad after the former died. Yi Chen was shocked. How did he die? Even a tribulation stage powerhouse had died in the Yin Su. How could he not be vigilant? Even though he had an indestructible body, he had to think for Yang Tian and the rest. You'll have to ask the toad you met in the War Sky Martial God's tomb. Chu Zhongtian smiled mysteriously. Did that person tell you that it has two brothers in the Yin Su? Yi Chen said in a deep voice. That toad also came from the spirit realm? The first time he met the toad, when Yi Chen wanted to subdue it, the former did say that it had a big brother and a second brother. No. Chu Zhongtian shook his head and said, this toad is a local divine beast of the Yin Su, but it has an extraordinary background. Before it was born, it was in the Yin Su forbidden area and obtained many benefit. It's the right thing to do for you to befriend it. End of this chapter. Chapter 1522. Could it be that the Old Man of Great Desolation was killed by the foreign brother that the toad mentioned? Yi Chen was shocked. The native living beings of Yin Su could actually kill a tribulation stage almighty from the spirit realm. How could he not be shocked by such a method? No. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Yi Chen's mind. If Chu Zhongtian and the rest were tribulation stage almighties, how could a mere Yin Su stop them? Yi Chen lifted his head to look at Chu Zhongtian as he thought to this point. He suddenly smiled and said, Fellow Chu, if I'm not wrong, I'm afraid you can't unleash your tribulation stage cultivation base, right? The moment that was said, the surroundings fell silent. Ling Long, who was standing behind Chu Zhongtian earlier, suddenly had a change in her aura. Then, endless killing intent erupted as she locked onto Yi Chen. Initially, Yi Chen was just testing her. Unexpectedly, her reaction verified Yi Chen's guess. Yi Chen was not afraid at all in the face of her monstrous killing intent. He remained sitting calmly as if he was not affected at all. Ling Long, step back. Your methods are useless against fellow Yi. Chu Zhongtian smiled faintly. After all, fellow Yi is fellow Netherworld's friend. Back then, fellow Netherworld was famous among the demons in the spirit realm. How can his friend be underestimated? Hearing that, Ling Long immediately dispersed the killing intent on her body and retreated to the side. She regained her gentle temperament from before. Meanwhile, the way Yi Chen looked at Chu Zhongtian was different again. This person was truly extraordinary. He even knew about the Patriarch of Netherworld's background. Thinking to this point, he gradually understood that perhaps this was the reason why the other party valued him so much. Chu Zhongtian waved his sleeve and poured a cup of tea for Yi Chen. He said while smiling, Fellow Yi, you're indeed perceptive. In fact, it's not just me. Even Qianxu Wuhan can't unleash his tribulation stage cultivation base, including the one in the heavenly tomb and the fallen old man of great desolation. He suddenly sighed softly. To be honest, we're only at the tribulation stage, but we can only unleash the cultivation base of a perfected void refinement stage. I'm afraid it's because of the Yin Su forbidden area, right? Yi Chen squinted slightly and smiled wryly. To be precise, you guys ended up like this because you coveted the immortal soul and immortal body suppressed in Yin Su. As his voice fell, the entire valley fell silent. Chu Zhongtian, who was initially calm and composed, had a slightly cold look in his eyes. He stared at Yi Chen for a few seconds before laughing out loud. Ha ha, indeed, nothing can be hidden from fellow Yi. His smile seemed to be bitter. To tell you the truth, 10,000 years ago, the spiritual realm didn't have a passage to the immortal realm, and we couldn't sense the ascension platform either. We could only watch as our lifespans ran out and our 10,000 years of cultivation turned to waste. Yi Chen secretly nodded upon hearing that. 10,000 years ago, it was the era of the ancient celestial realm. The master of the ancient celestial realm, Celestial Emperor Daozhen, rejected immortals who ascended from the lower realm, so he didn't set up an ascension platform. Thus, cultivators in the lower realm couldn't sense the ascension platform, so it was difficult for them to ascend to the celestial realm. Only a small number of courageous people were willing to use their 10,000 years of cultivation as a bet to force their way into the space-time turbulence to find the passage to the immortal world. Later on, after Yi Chen went to the ancient immortal realm and re-established the order of the immortal world, he set up the ascension platform to open an opportunity for the lower realm to ascend. Chu Zhongtian did not know what he was thinking and said slowly, "Just when we were in despair, an ancient immortal descended to the lower realm. Moreover, this ancient immortal was injured at that time." Ancient immortal. Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he heard that. It was almost the same as what he had guessed earlier. Many of us tribulation stage cultivators were bewitched by others in an attempt to steal the opportunity to ascend to immortality. We risked our lives to attack this ancient immortal, resulting in a great battle. Chu Zhongtian's expression was solemn. The outcome was that more than half of the tribulation stage cultivators in the spiritual realm died. We survived, while this ancient immortal was injured. He had no choice but to turn to the lower realm to seek refuge. Yi Chen came to a realization, so this ancient immortal came to Earth by chance? That's right. Chu Zhongtian glanced at him and said in a deep voice, "At that time, we didn't know where the ancient immortal went. However, we were worried that if we gave him a chance to recover, it would be our doomsday. Therefore, we searched for him at all costs. In the end, we found out that he came to Earth." He narrowed his eyes slightly. "However, when we came here, we found that an extremely talented expert had been born on Earth. The other party had a great battle with the ancient immortals, and in the end, he suppressed them in the Yin ruins by himself." Yi Chen blurted out, "Great Emperor Xianyuan?" Chu Zhongtian nodded lightly and said in admiration, "This person is too amazing. When we arrived on Earth, he had already left. He fought everywhere on the ancient starry sky path, sweeping through many stars in an attempt to solve the many hidden dangers for the living beings on Earth. So, you guys entered the Yin ruins later on." Yi Chen secretly nodded. "You're trying to destroy the sealed ancient immortal completely? While eliminating all future troubles, you're also trying to steal the opportunity to become an immortal." Haha! Chu Zhongtian laughed self-deprecatingly. "That was indeed what we were thinking at that time. However, when we approached this immortal soul, something unexpected happened. This immortal soul actually split his demonic psyche and used it to control many of us, causing chaos in our camp and causing us to fight each other. At this point, he seemed to be unwilling to face the past. The strangest thing was that this immortal soul used some kind of immortal technique to cause our cultivation base to plummet. After so many years, we fell from the tribulation stage all the way to the void refinement stage, beating the mortal world technique." Yi Chen thought of this immortal technique almost immediately. He could not help but say, "If that's the case, why don't you guys return to the spirit realm? Instead, you guys continue to stay in this world and get worse?" Unexpectedly, Chu Zhongtian shook his head and said, "We had the same thought back then. However, Great Emperor Xianyuan seemed to have set up some kind of barrier in the Yin ruins. We can only enter but not leave. In addition, there's a realm guardian. We can only sit and wait for death." "Realm guardian?" Yi Chen was surprised. Chu Zhongtian glanced at him. "Great Emperor Xianyuan is suspected to have become a saint. Before he left, he buried his body in the Yin ruins. It's called the Emperor's Tomb, and the existence guarding the Emperor's Tomb is that foreign realm guardian. The realm guardian is ferocious and likes to eat souls. Anyone who dares to challenge its authority will become its food." He sighed faintly. Back then, fellow Taoist De Huang was unwilling to be imprisoned in the Yin ruins, so he charged into the forbidden area to challenge the realm guardian without any regard for his life. In the end, his soul was destroyed. He could not help but glance at Yi Chen as he said that. "I believe you've guessed that this realm guardian is that toad's brother." End of this chapter. Chapter 1523. Toad's elder brother is the world guardian? Yi Chen's calm heart was stirred again when he heard what Chu Zhongtian said. Before this, he knew that the Toad had an extraordinary background, but he didn't expect the Toad to know the Yinshu realm guardian, who was the guardian of the great Emperor Xuanyuan's tomb. Yi Chen squinted at Chu Zhongtian as he thought to this point, since that's the case, why did the Yinshu realm guardian watch you guys survive until now? World guardians are unable to leave the forbidden zone, Chu Zhongtian said patiently. I've said it before, the realm protectors shoulder the mission of guarding the Dharch tomb, and the Dharch tomb is also in the forbidden zone. I see. Yi Chen secretly nodded and said, in other words, most of the danger in the forbidden zone comes from the realm guardian. As long as you guys don't barge into the forbidden zone, everyone will be fine? He couldn't help but gain a new understanding of great Emperor Xuanyuan. Although the ancient immortal had suffered from the backlash of forcefully descending to the lower realm, as well as being besieged by Chu Zhongtian and the others, it was still not something a tribulation passing stage could compare to. However, this great Emperor Xuanyuan was able to suppress an ancient immortal all by himself. One had to admit that he was indeed overflowing with talent. Even though he had left Earth, the Yin Su he left behind imprisoned many tribulation almighty cultivators there. Even the existence guarding his mausoleum caused many big shots in the spiritual realm a headache. You're only right. Chu Zhongtian shook his head. The world protector is only one of them. In reality, the most dangerous part of the forbidden zone is the demonic soil. Demonic soil? Yi Chen frowned. Chu Zhongtian's expression was solemn. Though Emperor Xuanyuan managed to trap the ancient immortal in the core of the forbidden zone, he was unable to kill him. Therefore, after so many years, the seals that Emperor Xuanyuan set up are showing signs of loosening. The immortal soul desperately broke a space barrier leading to the devil realm in Yinshu, causing a large amount of devil qi to invade the forbidden area of Yinshu, demonizing the forbidden area and giving birth to countless ferocious monsters. Yi Chen's pupils constricted slightly as soon as he said that. Are you saying that the immortal soul wants to perish together? He could not afford to be so shocked. He knew the demon realm too well. Once Yin Su was successfully demonized, the demonic aura would definitely spread to Earth. At that time, the entire Earth would be destroyed. It can't be considered a mutual destruction. Chu Zhongtian smiled. After all these years, we have not been living well. The ancient immortal is not much better off. Especially after being sealed by Emperor Xuanyuan, he is practically on his last breath. He's worried that some of us will find a way to recover in advance and barge into the forbidden area to kill him. His eyes were cold, therefore, he broke through the world barrier regardless of everything and led the demonic qi to invade Yin Su. His purpose was to create trouble for us so that he could have a chance to breathe. And now, the forbidden area should be called the demonic earth, or the netherworld earth. Not only has the demonic world's qi invaded, but even the netherworld qi of the netherworld has been mixed in. At this point, Chu Zhongtian shook his head slightly. In fact, the immortal soul has achieved its goal. Who would have thought that a mere small kiliacosm on Earth would have existences from the underworld, the devil realm, and the spirit realm gathered together? Yi Chen nodded with a serious expression. Whether it was the devil realm, the spirit realm, or the netherworld, they were all worlds that were second only to the immortal realm. Now, as Chu Zhongtian had said, they had all appeared on Earth, a small kiliacosm that was at the bottom of all worlds. Thinking to this point, he said worriedly, Fellow Chu, I just want to know how big the broken world barrier is. Have people from the devil realm and the netherworld descended into this world? If people from the devil realm and the netherworld descended, the problem would only get worse. A mere devil general from the devil realm could sweep through everything. It's hard to say. Chu Zhongtian frowned and said, that broken barrier shouldn't be big. In my opinion, the netherworld and the devil realm haven't discovered it yet. After all, we've been here for countless years, but we haven't seen the existence of these two realms. In reality, the spirit realm, the devil realm, and the netherworld were incompatible with each other. Therefore, as an outsider, he did not wish to encounter people from the two realms on Earth. This was because over countless years, the devil realm and the netherworld had waged war against the spirit realm more than once. Unfortunately, they were repelled by the spirit realm's army and ended in failure. The most typical case was that hundreds of thousands of years ago, the netherworld had attacked the spirit realm under the leadership of the Azura Queen. The spirit realm could not resist at all. At the critical moment, if a true immortal had not descended to the mortal world and fought the Azura Queen, killing her in the end, the spirit realm would not have been able to escape. The current plan is to repair the broken barrier as soon as possible. Yi Chen frowned slightly and said, "Otherwise, the broken barrier will only get bigger and bigger. By then, it will be completely out of control." "Fellow Yi, don't worry for now." As if sensing his worry, Chu Zhongtian smiled and said, "Now that the World Guardian is guarding the Yin ruins, the World Guardian naturally won't sit idly by and watch the situation worsen. In reality, the World Guardian has been purging the demonic land for so many years." His gaze turned slightly cold. The real source is the suppressed immortal soul. If he doesn't die, no one will be able to sleep or eat in peace. In reality, he had another worry that he did not tell Yi Chen. Even the few powerhouses of the spirit realm could not guarantee if the suppressed ancient immortal's immortal soul had the ability to communicate with the immortal realm. If the latter could communicate and make the immortal realm take action, it would be the worst. Whether it was the tribulation stage or the Mahayana stage, they were still mortals who were slightly more powerful. How could they be a match for immortals? Before this, we didn't have the slightest plan to deal with it. Chu Zhongtian suddenly smiled and said, however, after fellow Yi appeared, we saw a glimmer of hope. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes. "Hope?" As if sensing his confusion and vigilance, Chu Zhongtian said, "Whether it's me or Qianxia Wuhan, we're all people from the outer realm. We're not considered natives of Earth. Therefore, the World Guardian that guards the demonic land is hostile to us. In that case, we can only stay at the outskirts of the Yin ruins and watch the demonic land grow stronger day by day." He looked at Yi Chen steadily as he said that. "Fellow Yi, you're different. You're a native cultivator of Earth. You're a descendant of great Emperor Xianyuan, so it's easier for you to gain the trust of the World Guardian. You'll be able to open the methods set up by great Emperor Xianyuan and help us recover our cultivation bases. Then, we'll work together to kill the immortal soul." "Is that why you used the Patriarch of Hell and the rest as a cover to lure me here?" Yi Chen smiled and looked at him quietly. He said, "Fellow Chu, how can you be sure that I'll help you? Don't forget that you're from the outer realm after all. As the saying goes, those who are not of our race will have different intentions." "You will." Chu Zhongtian was not angry at all. Instead, he laughed out loud. "Perhaps you don't care about our lives, but you definitely care about Earth and China." End of this chapter. Chapter 1524. He shook his head slightly. Whether it's the demonic soil or the immortal soul, once it erupts, we might be able to protect ourselves temporarily, but the first to bear the brunt will be Earth. He looked at Yi Chen and said with a smile as he spoke to this point, "I believe you don't want to see the entire Earth being devoured by demonic energy and nether energy, and countless humans and living beings being demonized, right?" Yi Chen's eyes flickered slightly when he heard that. Chu Zhongtian was right. He did not want to see the demonic energy demonize the entire Yin ruins and spread to Earth. At the very least, he could not let it affect China. "Even if it's like that, how do you believe that I can help all of you?" He said indifferently, "I've never met the World Guardian of the demonic soil. Moreover, the true descendants of great Emperor Xianyuan are actually the 8 Xianyuan clans." 8 Xianyuan clans? Chu Zhongtian chuckled. "Are you referring to the 8 ancient families in China who claim to be the direct descendants of great Emperor Xianyuan?" He changed the topic and seemed to be disdainful. They're just 8 rotten families that have long been blinded by greed. They can't afford to take this responsibility. The World Guardian will definitely not take a liking to these 8 pieces of trash. At this moment, Ling Long, who had been silent behind him, suddenly said, Sect Master, don't forget that the World Guardian once said that whoever can obtain the Xianyuan sword's acknowledgement will obtain his permission. Xianyuan sword? Yi Qin was surprised. Is it Great Emperor Xuanyuan's weapon? That's right. Chu Zhongtian nodded slightly and said, after Great Emperor Xianyuan suppressed the ancient immortals, he forcefully removed the spine of the ancient immortals and refined it into his own weapon. That's the Xianyuan sword. He took a deep breath in and his expression turned serious. It's said that this Xianyuan sword is already an extreme emperor weapon, only one step away from an immortal weapon, extracting the spine of an immortal to refine a weapon. Yi Qin mumbled when he heard that. Great Emperor Xianyuan is so generous. After Great Emperor Xianyuan left this world, he didn't take the Xianyuan sword with him. Chu Zhongtian said, instead, he left it in the Emperor's tomb. After countless years, we've more or less interacted with the World Guardian. The World Guardian once said that whoever can obtain the Xianyuan sword's acknowledgement will be able to subdue it. What a pity! At this point, he sighed softly, after our cultivation level regressed, we didn't dare to enter the demonic Earth's might. The only person who succeeded was Qianxia Wuhan. Yi Qin came to a realization. Did Qianxia Wuhan go in for the Xianyuan sword? Before this, he had heard Taoist Dark North mention that the demon god Forest had slaughtered his way into the Forbidden Zone and had even dyed it with blood. Who would have thought that it was all for the Xianyuan sword? Exactly. Chu Zhongtian nodded and said, even though Qianxia Wuhan's cultivation has regressed, he still managed to stain the Forbidden Land with blood. Unfortunately, he couldn't obtain the Xianyuan sword's approval, so he had no choice but to return. The Path Master of carnal desires had dominated the spiritual world, and there were very few people that he admired. Old Man Great Desolation was considered half of that, and the rest was Qianxia Wuhan. Ling Long reminded me just now. He seemed to have thought of something, and he shook his head and said, even though the 8 clans of Xianyuan aren't much, they're still the descendants of the great Emperor Xianyuan in the end. In terms of bloodline, it's easier for the Xianyuan sword to acknowledge them as its master. Yi Qin nodded in agreement. Therefore, instead of placing your hopes on me, you might as well consider the 8 Xianyuan clans. My words aren't absolute. Chu Zhongtian suddenly glanced at him. Compared to the 8 clans of Xianyuan, I admire fellow Yi more. The Xianyuan sword has a spirit and will naturally choose its master. Why would it care so much about bloodline? His gaze was extremely sincere. Among the younger generation of the 8 clans of Xianyuan, no one can compete with fellow Yi apart from that person from the Huangfu family. The Huangfu family? Yi Qin said. Ling Long explained. The Huangfu family is one of the 8 clans of Xianyuan. The Huangfu patriarch is suspected to be at peak void refinement. Such an existence is nothing. What the sect master really cares about is a descendant of the Huangfu family called Huangfuyu. She shook her head lightly when she met Yi Chen's gaze. Actually, this person isn't a descendant of the Huangfu family. To be precise, he's the reincarnation of the Huangfu family's patriarch. This person has a single metal spirit root. Chu Zhongtian took over the topic and said, he built his foundation 100 days after birth, formed his core in 1,000 days, formed his nascent soul in 3 years, and formed his soul in 5 years. Now, he's already at mid-stage void refinement. This person only took 12 years to go from peak soul formation to void refinement. Such aptitude is indeed shocking. Yi Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, however. It makes sense if he's really the reincarnation of the Huangfu family's patriarch. By the way, this person's previous life was from the secular world of Earth like you. Chu Zhongtian suddenly said, I got Ling Long to investigate. In his previous life, Huang Fu Yu was from a wealthy family called the Su family in the secular world of Earth. The secular world of Earth? A member of the wealthy Su family? Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. He said immediately, "Do you know what his name was in his previous life?" Chu Zhongtian immediately looked at Ling Long. After pondering for a few seconds, the latter said calmly, "I think his name was Su Qilin." Su Qilin. At that moment, countless gleams flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. He was too familiar with that name. When Yi Chen destroyed the Su family and killed Su Tao, he found out about Su Qilin's existence. Later on, Yi Chen went to the Kunlun Ruins sword sect to look for Yi Wushuang. He fought Su Qilin and killed him. Initially, Yi Chen thought that Su Qilin would definitely die. Never did he expect to find out from Luo Tianya that Su Qilin might not be dead after he returned from the Purple World. At that time, Yi Chen did not pay too much attention. Never did he expect to find out from Chu Zhongtian that the genius of the Huangfu family, one of the 8 Xianyuan clans, was Su Qilin. Seeing his strange expression, Chu Zhongtian could not help but say, "What? Do you know this person, fellow Yi?" "I don't just know him." Yi Chen grinned and said, "I killed this person in one of his lives. I didn't expect him to be so lucky. He lived another life, and became a member of the 8 Xianyuan clans." "Fellow Yi killed this person in one of his lives?" Hearing that, Chu Zhongtian's eyes flashed, and he immediately said with a smile, "Looks like there's a fate entanglement between the two of you. It's very likely that this person is your fated enemy." "Fated enemy? I've never believed in fate." Yi Chen smiled coldly and said, "If I can kill him once, I can kill him again. If there's really fate, then I'll destroy fate as well." Sensing the intent coming from him, Chu Zhongtian and Ling Long could not help but look at each other. They saw a hint of shock in each other's eyes. Yi Chen's killing intent did not resemble a native living being from Earth at all. Instead, it was like a peerless demon lord had descended to the mortal world. "Fellow Yi," Chu Zhongtian suddenly said, "no matter what, it's very likely that Huang Fu Yu will obtain the Xianyuan sword's recognition as its master. Once he obtains the Xianyuan sword and has the help of the World Guardian, you're in a bad situation." End of this chapter. Chapter 1525. "Master, this bird of desire is trying to scare you." Night Demon Armor's voice sounded in Yi Chen's mind after hearing what Lord of Desire said. Su Qilin and Huang Fu Yu didn't get the Xianyuan sword to acknowledge them as its master. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to do much. Night Demon is right. The Xianyuan sword is only a supreme emperor weapon after all, not an immortal weapon. Night Demon and I are enough to deal with this Xianyuan sword. Emperor Brush secretly agreed. Moreover, the immortal slaying flying dagger is still in Yin Su. With it around, even that immortal soul can be killed. This human desire bird master makes it sound reasonable, but in reality, he's not a good person. Isn't his goal to trick you into following his thoughts? Night Demon Armor chuckled. I admit that even though Great Emperor Xianyuan is a genius, how can he compare to Master? Master, you're someone who has ascended to the peak of the immortal world. I know what I'm doing. Yi Chen comforted the two of them calmly before looking at Chu Zhongtian. Fellow Chu, you don't have to worry about Huang Fu Yu. Now that we've met, shouldn't you release the Patriarch of Hell and the rest? Of course. Chu Zhongtian faintly smiled and clapped his hands at the void. Old Ba, let Brother Huang Quan and the others out. Boom. Following his words, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared in the sky. The black shadow had a pair of green eyes that looked like lanterns. On the back of the black shadow, countless dancing pavilions and singing platforms could be faintly seen. Immortal music lingered in the air like a paradise on earth. A grade 8 sea serpent. Yi Chen said in surprise after seeing the beast's face clearly. I didn't expect fellow Chu to have subdued a grade 8 sea serpent. As the name suggested, a mirage was a pavilion by the sea, and the vast air became a palace. It was a metaphor for illusory things. Little did he know that the mirage was an illusion created by the sea serpent, and the beast before him was a grade 8 sea serpent. In terms of realm, it was no lower than the void refinement stage. "Fellow Yi, you have good eyes." Chu Zhongtian looked at him with admiration and said, "Old Ba was subdued by me on the ancient starry sky path when I came to Earth from the outer realms." The Class 8 young beast called Old Ba opened its mouth and spat out a few figures, revealing the faces of old ancestor Yellow Spring and the others. Apart from the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang, who were still awake, Yang Tian and the rest were sleeping soundly. Clearly, they had fallen into an illusion. Yi Chen walked up and looked at the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang. "Patriarch, are you guys alright?" "I'm fine." Old ancestor Yellow Spring shook his head slightly and looked up at Chu Zhongtian. "Chu, you're bullying me because I'm not strong enough. Just you wait, when I recover to my peak, I'll smash your man-desire world into pieces." "Fellow Taoist Yellow Spring, please forgive me if I offended you earlier." Chu Zhongtian laughed out loud when he heard that. "If you and I can leave this realm safely and return to the spirit realm, I won't hesitate even if there are 10 of them, let alone a mere man-desire world." Old ancestor Yellow Spring did not give him any face at all. He urged Yi Chen repeatedly, "Fellow Yi, let's go. I get angry whenever I see this Chu bastard." "Thank you, fellow Chu." Yi Chen cupped his fists at Chu Zhongtian and left with Yang Tian and the rest. If Chu Zhongtian was unwilling to cooperate, there might be a fight today. Naturally, Yi Chen was not afraid. However, the process would not be so smooth. "Fellow Yi, please stop," Chu Zhongtian suddenly said. "I hope you won't tell anyone about me, especially the Tianyuan Trade Association." "Of course." Yi Chen nodded. Not to mention that he would not tell anyone, even if he did, no one would believe him. After all, the tribulation stage was too far away from Earth. Also, Chu Zhongtian seemed to have thought of something and said, "The reason why the Tianyuan Trade Association wants to attack the Desolate God's Tomb is definitely because they have their eyes on fellow Taoist Great Desolation's inheritance. I hope that fellow Yi will protect fellow Taoist Great Desolation's corpse for Chu Mo's sake. Don't trust the Tianyuan Trade Association too much. Remember this." His voice was getting further and further away. In the end, he completely disappeared from the world, along with the rank 8 clam beast and Ling Long. After Yi Chen and the rest were far away, Chu Zhongtian reappeared where he was earlier. His eyes were flickering. Ling Long said thoughtfully, "Sect Master, how much do you think this person believes in you?" "It doesn't matter whether he believes me or not." Chu Zhongtian smiled faintly and said, "What's important is that our plans for so many years are all on this person. I don't understand. Why does the sect master value this person so much?" Ling Long smiled sweetly, charming all living beings, "Just because the old ancestor Yellow Spring knows him? In my opinion, Huang Fuyu is more suitable for the sect master, and he's easier to control." "Why?" Chu Zhongtian glanced at him and suddenly smiled. That bastard from the heavenly tomb and the guy from the demon god forest both thought highly of this person. Both of them are prideful and arrogant. How could an ordinary person enter their eyes? As for Huang Fuyu, he paused and then frowned. This person can at most be considered our last resort. We'll have to wait and see for a while. Before he could finish, the world suddenly trembled violently. Then, the space in front of the two of them began to distort. In an instant, an ethereal figure appeared before the two of them. It was a young man in green clothes. He held a scripture in his hand and had an otherworldly aura. He looked like a frail scholar. "So it's Brother Wuhan." Chu Zhongtian smiled and said, "What's the matter that requires you to come personally?" The scholar said calmly, "You shouldn't have told him such a secret in advance. Since this person has caught the eye of both you and that person from the heavenly tomb, it's enough to show that he's destined to be involved in this storm. Since that's the case, why not tell him in advance? Chu Zhongtian frowned, seemingly displeased. Because I don't like it. The scholar's eyes were bright as if billions of stars were being destroyed. Everything has its own destiny. Your schemes will eventually backfire on you. There's no need to say such polite words to me. Chu Zhongtian smiled coldly and his eyes turned cold. Since you can take a liking to this person, why can't I take a liking to him? I don't like other people telling me what to do. The scholar was still calm and composed. You want to fight me? Don't you call yourself a scholar? Chu Zhongtian's face twitched. Is a scholar this unreasonable? You use your fists just because you don't agree with me? If they were at their peak, he wouldn't be afraid of this poor scholar. But now, both of their cultivations had been weakened. As for how much, only he knew. Therefore, he wasn't confident that he could fight him. Faced with such a question, the scholar smiled and said, My fists are reason. Chapter 1526. In a luxurious courtyard in Tianyuan City, Yi Chen dismissed Yang Tian and the rest and left the Patriarch of Hell alone. He said in a deep voice, Patriarch, do you really know the master of the Divine God Tower, Chu Zhongtian? This trip to the Divine God Tower had made him more vigilant. He gradually realized that he might have fallen into an impending storm. To be precise, there were many invisible hands trying to control him. He had this feeling before he even stepped into the Yin ruins. For example, when he was fighting the heavenly venerable of Absolute Beginning's divine consciousness projection, the mysterious stone coffin that suddenly crossed realms to help him. From the looks of it, the existence in the stone coffin was most likely the master of the heavenly tomb? He had no grudges with the other party, so why would the other party help him? Secondly, when he had just entered the Yin ruins, he had met Qianxia Wuhan in the demon god forest. Although they did not have much interaction, it was clearly not a coincidence. Now, Chu Zhongtian, the carnal desire path master, had used the Patriarch of Hell and the rest as an excuse to lure him to the Divine God Tower. He then found out the true secret of the Yin ruins. Hearing that, the Patriarch of Hell said with a solemn expression, I do. This person is indeed a tribulation stage-old monster in the spirit realm. However, this person has a bad reputation in the spirit realm because he's greedy and lustful. Any woman that he takes a fancy to will submit to him and fill his harem. Yi Chen was stunned. Then this person's personality is quite similar to yours. *T. The Patriarch of Yellow Spring flew into a rage out of humiliation. I never force anyone. If you go to the spiritual realm in the future, why don't you ask around and find out when I, the Patriarch of Yellow Spring, have forced any woman? All the women who follow me are loyal to me. Yi Chen did not expect him to have such a huge reaction. He changed the topic immediately. What about the one in the demon god forest and the one in the heavenly tomb? I don't know much about the Patriarch in the demon god forest. The Patriarch of Hell pondered for a moment and said seriously, I only know that that person is the Patriarch of the Wood Spirit clan. He's clearly not human, but he likes the human way, studying the 4 books and 5 classics, etiquette, and so on. You know that I hate people like that the most. I'd rather deal with someone like the carnal desire path master than Qianxia Wuhan. As for the one in the heavenly tomb, at this point, his eyes lit up. If Ancestor's guess is correct, he should be from the Corpse sect, and he is an extremely ancient existence in the Corpse sect. Corpse Yin sect? Yi Chen secretly frowned upon hearing that. In the cultivation world, the Corpse sect was the most powerful, had the most mysterious background, and was the most low-key. The Corpse sect had a very unique cultivation method. Every new disciple would go out and find a corpse to use as their puppet. In this way, along with the growth of his cultivation, the corpse puppets would grow stronger as well, and it would undoubtedly be a great help to him. As a result, every corpse sect disciple that went out would carry a coffin with their corpse puppet inside. When other sects saw their appearance, they would immediately recognize that they were from the corpse sect. The reason why it was said that the corpse sect was the most powerful was because the corpse sect had branches almost everywhere. From a small prefecture to a large world, they could be seen almost everywhere. Other than that, the corpse sect also secretly traded corpses. In the cultivation world, there were always people who had no choice but to abandon their physical bodies and find a perfect cauldron to cultivate again because their lifespan was about to end. The corpse sect could provide them with suitable cauldrons. It could be said that there were many types of cauldrons. Men, women, young, old, beautiful, ugly. As long as one could afford it, they could always get it. Yi Chen could not help but look at the Patriarch of Hell as he thought to this point. If that person in the heavenly tomb is from the corpse sect, what's his purpose? Could it be that he has become the immortal body of that ancient immortal? Very likely. The Patriarch of Hell nodded slightly and said, "Those gloomy fellows from the corpse sect always like to deal with corpses. Ordinary corpses are already like that, let alone the body of an immortal. Of course, they definitely want to obtain the method to become an immortal." Yi Chen thought about it and subsequently told him all the secrets that Chu Zhongtian had told him. The Patriarch of Hell pondered for a while before saying, "None of these guys are easy to deal with. My opinion is that we don't listen to anyone, even that great Emperor Xianyuan." He took a good look at Yi Chen as he said to this point, "It seems like the situation in Yin-Su is very complicated. It's even extremely dangerous. Fellow Yi, if I were you, I would abandon everything and bring your family to the cultivation world. Only by escaping from this world can we not be affected." "That's not my character," Yi Chen interrupted. "I don't think I'm a good person, but I'm definitely not an evil or selfish person. Earth is my home planet after all. My ancestors have been buried in this world for generations. If you want me to abandon this world, what's the difference between that and being a disloyal, unfilial, and heartless person? I guess that's what you're thinking." The Patriarch of Hell smiled as if he was not surprised at all. "Then we can only wade into this muddy water. After all, the body of an immortal is quite tempting to me." Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. "By the way, Chu Zhongtian once said that the brother of that damned toad is the guardian of Yin-Su. Why don't you call it out and ask? It disappeared a long time ago." Yi Chen shook his head and smiled. "This guy disappeared after I returned from the space trade fair. I think he left. This damn toad. I didn't expect it to have such a powerful backer. No wonder it was so arrogant before," the Patriarch sighed. In the core of Yin-Su, black fog swept. Croak, croak, croak. In the strange black fog, a golden toad ignored the black fog and slowly jumped forward. It seemed to be displeased as it said, "Second brother, it's not easy for me to escape. Do you really want to capture me back so heartlessly?" In the face of its ridicule, the black fog became even more intimidating, but there was no movement at all. "All right, second brother, just let me go back." The toad rolled its eyes a few times and could not help but pretend to be pitiful. "When I return this time, boss will definitely punish me severely. Can you bear to watch me roar?" Before it could finish speaking, a pair of bloody eyes that were like red lanterns suddenly lit up in the black fog. "Shut up! Your sneaking out this time has attracted the attention of too many existences. If they weren't afraid of boss deterrence, you would have been captured and refined into medicine long ago." An enraged voice rang out from the boiling black fog. "Most importantly, boss is injured." "What? Boss is injured?" The toad immediately exploded. "How is that possible? Boss is so powerful. Who can injure him? Tell me, I'll burn him to death." "It's a saber, a very fast saber. That saber is so fast that even boss can't see it clearly. If not for the sword intent emitted by the Xianyuan sword in the Emperor's tomb, boss might have died under that saber." Hearing this, the toad was instantly dumbfounded. Boss sensed that the Emperor's tomb is about to open, so he ordered me to bring you back to protect the Emperor's tomb together to prevent the existence in the demonic soil from invading the Emperor's tomb. End of this chapter. Chapter 1527. It was a sleepless night. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds and shrouded the ground, the atmosphere in the outer area of the Ain ruins rose rapidly. One could faintly feel the killing intent contained within. Everyone knew that the desolate god's tomb was about to open. There were many rumors in the Ain ruins. It was said that Old Man Great Desolation was comparable to that person in the demon god forest. He had once killed his way into the forbidden area and dyed it with blood. Although he died, he only died when he returned to the outer area of the Ain ruins. The forbidden area was an abyss that blocked everyone. Countless people coveted it, but they had no choice but to look up to it. Even the 5 sacred grounds were no exception. They all wanted to explore the secrets of the forbidden area. As for that person in the demon god forest, no one dared to touch him. However, it was different for Old Man Great Desolation. After all, the former had died long ago and turned into a tomb. There might be some powerful cultivation techniques or secret techniques that allowed one to safely enter the forbidden area. At the city gate of Tianyuan City. At this moment, it could be said that many experts had gathered. Ferocious beasts covered the sky and earth, and dazzling soldiers stood like a forest. The killing intent that they emitted was almost material, especially the dozen or so figures that were leading the group. They stood proudly in the sky like gods. Their breathing was thunderous and their gazes were like lightning, causing a great deterrent to many of the spectators. If there were outsiders present, they would definitely notice that these people were from Tianyuan City. To be more precise, they were the core members of the Tianyuan commerce. At this moment, there was a woman in a red dress, and she had a heroic air about her. She seemed like a woman who wasn't inferior to a man. The woman's brows were slightly furrowed as she looked around, as if she was waiting for someone. It's almost time. Before her, a dignified man looked at the sky and then frowned at the woman. Ziyue, why hasn't the external help you invited arrived yet? Fang Ziyue bit her lips. Uncle, I think Senior Yi is. Before she could finish speaking, the handsome young man in divine robes beside her couldn't help but smile and say, Little Sister Ziyue, don't tell me that the external help you invited was afraid, so he ran away at the last minute? As soon as those words were spoken, numerous gazes landed on Fang Ziyue. There were many emotions in those gazes, such as smirks and schadenfreude. In this attack on the desolate god's tomb, the young people of the 4 branches of the heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce all moved out together. All of them rubbed their palms together, because everyone knew that this was a test. If they passed the test, not only would they be able to fight for the faction behind them, but they would also be able to suppress the other 3 factions and take over the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce. Thus, even though everyone seemed to be extremely amiable towards each other on the surface, there were even more open and veiled strife between them, and they wished for nothing more than for each other to make a fool of themselves in public. Fang Qingwu, shut your stinky mouth. Hearing those words, Fang Ziyue fiercely glared at him and said coldly, I believe Senior Yi won't break his promise. So what if I don't break my promise? The young man called Fang Qingwu chuckled. In this competition, my orange vein is determined to win. For this reason, I've invited fellow Taoist Luo Xiao. Boom! As his voice fell, the space above everyone's heads suddenly distorted. Then, a giant-like figure descended from the sky. That person's chest and abdomen were exposed, and his cheekbones were high. His facial features were slightly different from humans, and overall, he looked like a wild beast. As that person appeared, Fang Ziyue's expression changed. Second on the 10 great villains ranking, Gui Jian Chou Luo Xiao? What? He's Luo Xiao? The head disciple that Tian Xiezi is proud of? It's rumored that this person deeply inherited Tian Xiezi's teachings. Before the age of 300, he resolutely stepped into the great perfection of deity transformation. Moreover, His battle prowess is extremely terrifying, and he has the title of the number one person below the void refinement stage. That's not all. It's said that this person cultivates an extremely strange divine ability that can instantly explode with battle prowess comparable to the void refinement stage. After seeing the appearance of the person who came, the expressions of the many young people around Fang Ziyu all changed. Even some of the people who were hired as external help were no exception. So it's nephew Luo Xiu. The eyes of the dignified man who spoke earlier flashed, then he looked at Luo Xiu with a bit of admiration and said, "May I ask how your master is?" "Uncle Master Fang, my master is doing very well now." Luo Xiu grinned with a cold expression. "My master sent me here this time to help Qing Wu's young master, but also to see what the fellow who killed my uncle master is capable of." Fang Ziyue's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. Then, she suddenly looked at Fang Qingwu. "Fang Qingwu, you're really smart." At that moment, she finally understood Fang Qingwu's motive. Yi Chen had killed Old Man Tianmo earlier, and Old Man Tianmo was Luo Xiu's uncle master. Clearly, Fang Qingwu had specially invited Luo Xiu here to fight Yi Chen. To be precise, he wanted to fight her, Fang Ziyue. "Sister Ziyue, you're being too polite," Fang Qingwu said with a fake smile. "The reason why I invited fellow Luo Xiu here is for the champion of this competition. I have no intention of targeting you, Sister Ziyue." How could Fang Ziyue not know his hypocrisy? She ignored him after scoffing. However, there was a hint of worry deep in her beautiful eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1529. Yi Chen smiled upon hearing Luo Xiu's venomous words. He then retracted his gaze as if he did not hear what Luo Xiu said. Fang Qingwu, who was sitting next to Luo Xiu, seemed to have noticed this detail. He glanced at Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue with a forced smile before saying to Luo Xiu through voice transmission, "Brother Luo, why are you so concerned about this person?" He stretched his sitting posture slightly and said in disdain, "This person is nothing in your brother Luo's eyes. As long as you help me get first place this time, won't you be able to deal with this person at will?" At this point, a mocking expression flowed in his eyes. "At that time, this person's life and death will be in my hands. Perhaps Brother Luo won't even need to do anything." "Don't worry, young Master Fang. I know what I'm doing." Luo Xiu glanced at Yi Chen's back with extreme resentment again, and said in a deep voice, "Then I'll let this person live for a while longer. When the time comes, I'll capture him and bring him back to report to Master." How could he not know what Fang Qingwu was implying? He was warning him not to ruin the Orange bloodline's plans for personal grudges. Moreover, the reason why he had come out this time was for the Void Soaring Dragon Pill that the Fang family's Orange bloodline had provided. If he obtained it, he would be able to increase his chances of entering the Void refinement stage. About 4 hours later, majestic mountains appeared in everyone's line of sight. Many majestic mountains entered everyone's line of sight. Some of the mountains were shrouded in black fog, while others were shrouded in spiritual fog. They all gave off a strange aura. These mountains seemed to be circular in shape, encompassing a radius of several hundred miles. At the very center, there was a long dragon of baleful aura that seemed to be roaring furiously. Even though they were so far away, everyone could still feel the wisps of murderous aura that were being emitted, as if they were being watched by a peerless, ferocious creature. It was a tremble that came from the depths of their souls. Is this the Forsaken Abyss? What a dense aura of death! Oh my God, how many people must have died to accumulate to such an extent? On the huge sleeves, many of the Fang family's younger generation looked at this scene in shock. At this moment, all sorts of people had already arrived in the sky and on the ground. The lowest cultivation base was at the late-stage God transformation stage. However, the atmosphere was very silent, as if they were waiting for everyone to arrive. After all, the desolate God's tomb needed many forces to open it. Do you see the ring-shaped valley? The middle-aged man who was in charge stood facing the wind and looked into the sky. The desolate god's tomb is located at the entrance. Yi Chen followed his gaze and looked over. He could vaguely see that there seemed to be an extremely profound barrier enveloping the huge ring-shaped abyss 5 kilometers away. The barrier was engraved with ancient and mysterious patterns. It was filled with boundless power, as if it was enveloped in celestial light. Looks like this barrier was set up by great Emperor Xianyuan. The divine fire in his eyes flickered faintly, and he immediately saw through the entire enchantment. He couldn't help but secretly nod, and it seems that he wants to seal the entire core and forbidden area of the Inshu. Great Emperor Xianyuan is indeed talented. No, there's a flaw in the barrier? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. He focused on a gap in the southeast corner that was difficult to detect. He frowned and said, with great Emperor Xuanyuan's ability, he should have noticed this gap. Unless, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind, unless this gap is man-made. Just as he was lost in thought, he heard someone exclaim, "Look, the people from the great Jiang God dynasty are here." Swoosh, following the intense sound of something tearing through the air, everyone saw a red light flying over at a speed that was difficult to catch with the naked eye. In just a few breaths of time, the red light landed less than 3,000 meters away from the crowd. It was an extremely ferocious demonic bird with a crimson body. Soon after, 2 figures appeared on the back of the demonic bird with their hands behind their back. The person standing at the front was a man in a blue robe. The man's eyes were deep like the ocean, unfathomable. Behind him was a young man with long hair. The young man's armor shone brightly, making it difficult for people to look at him. It's the great Jiang God dynasty's 3rd prince, Jiang Hongyun, and the great Jiang God's son, Jiang Li. Rumor has it that the 3rd prince, Jiang Hongyuan, entered the void refinement stage 10 years ago. This time, the great Jiang God dynasty clearly wants him to lead the team to intimidate the other forces. Cries of surprise immediately rang out from the crowd that had already arrived. Obviously, they were surprised by the 2 people on the demonic bird. "Brother Hongyuan, how have you been?" The middle-aged man from the Fong family, who was in charge of leading the team, smiled faintly. Then, his figure flashed and instantly landed in front of Jiang Hongyuan. Jiang Hongyuan's stiff expression finally changed slightly. He nodded slightly and said, "Brother Fong Tiancho, I didn't expect you to lead the team this time." The few sacred grounds fought openly and secretly, but to the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce, none of that existed. After all, they were merchants, and merchants were only interested in profit. Naturally, they would not easily offend any faction. Sensing Jiang Hongyuan's coldness, Fong Tiancho did not mind. He turned his gaze to Jiang Li. "Nephew Jiang Li, I apologize to you on behalf of Tianyuan City for what happened the day before yesterday." Naturally, he was talking about how Yi Chen had helped Yang Tian snatch the void soaring dragon pill from the crowd after the spatial trade fair. "Senior Fong, you're too serious." Jiang Li glanced at the Fong family's camp with an unnatural expression. He then retracted his gaze and said, "Nephew, you can't blame anyone for being inferior." Fong Tiancho did not say anything else. After returning to the Fong family, he instructed them to wait patiently. Not long after, countless figures flashed over from the horizon, causing the atmosphere in this space to rise to the extreme. The people from the Panwu Immortal sect are here. However, the one leading the team this time is Su Mingqi, who's ranked 2nd among the 10 true disciples of the Panwu Immortal sect. Nonsense. After the death of the Panwu Immortal sect's young master, Hong Ye, Su Mingqi is the strongest among the younger generation of the Panwu Immortal sect. How could he not come? The people from the Tianxian Holy Land are here too. No one knew who shouted, but a jade boat carved from green jade rose into the sky. The large boat was richly ornamented, and there were orioles and swallows. It was a charming sight. The person in the lead was a woman dressed in white. Her every word and action was flirtatious and extremely alluring. However, no one dared to look at her directly. This was because the woman was the first disciple of the Tianxian Peak's peak master in the Tianxian Holy Land. She was the youngest void refinement powerhouse in the entire Tianxian Peak. The woman landed on the jade boat and landed in front of Fong Tianqiu and the rest. She smiled and said, "Hee, sorry to have kept you waiting. So it's Elder Lu Rian from the Tianxian Peak." Jiang Hongyuan and Fong Tianqiu returned the greeting. They did not dare to underestimate the other party just because she was a woman. Yi Chen looked through the jade boat and said in surprise, "I didn't expect her to come too." End of this chapter. Chapter 1530. On the Tianyuan Holy Land's jade boat, he actually saw the Tianyuan Holy Maiden who had used a seduction technique on him outside Tianyuan City. After the woman suffered a backlash, Yi Chen thought that she would need to recover for a while. He did not expect her to be in time for the opening of the desolate god's tomb. Clearly, the Tianyuan Holy Land had put in a lot of effort on her. "Senior Yi, do you know someone from the Tianyuan Holy Land?" As if sensing his abnormality, Fang Zue immediately followed his gaze and said with a faint smile, "Could it be that you've taken a fancy to the woman from the Tianyuan Holy Land? If that's the case, I can be your matchmaker." Yi Chen shook his head lightly and retracted his gaze. Almost at that moment, the Tianyuan Holy Maiden on the huge jade boat seemed to have noticed something and looked at the Tianyuan Trade Association's camp. Her intuition told her that a gaze had come from there. However, to her disappointment, she did not notice Yi Chen's presence. Instead, she was attracted by Fang Ziyue. As if sensing the atmosphere, Fong Tianqiu took the initiative to break the atmosphere with a smile. "Now, only the Taichu Dojo and the Yan Huang Fortress are left." Just as he finished speaking, the space suddenly distorted. An old man in green slowly walked out of the storm. "How can we, the 8 Xianyuan clans, miss such a grand event?" The old man's voice was neither loud nor soft, but it exploded in everyone's ears like thunder, immediately attracting everyone's attention. "Lei Yunzi, it's Lei Yunzi from the Yan Huang Fortress." The people behind him must be from the 8 Xianyuan clans. However, many forces are led by elders. Why is there only Lei Yunzi from the 8 Xianyuan clans? I'm afraid you guys don't know. A few days ago, the 5 Holy Lands joined forces to descend on the Yan Huang Fortress because of Mad Southern Yi. Both sides had a huge battle, and both sides were injured. At this moment, the 8 Xianyuan clans are probably planning to avoid them. Hearing the discussion, even Yi Chen could not help but look over. It was his first time seeing Lei Yunzi since he entered the Yin ruins. The old man in green acted as if he did not hear him. With a wave of his sleeve, he landed on the ground with several young men and women. The young men and women behind him all had extraordinary auras. They were not weaker than some of the older generation experts present. The one who attracted the most attention was the silver-haired young man who was walking in second place. The young man's face was absolutely beautiful like a god, and his eyes were bright like the stars, shining brightly. Coupled with his long hair and strong masculine aura, it was difficult not to notice him. Even the women of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land were no exception. As the green-robed old man's group appeared, the woman leading the Heavenly Jade Holy Lands team, Rowena, giggled and said, "Fellow Taoist Lei Yun, why did you come alone from the Xianyuan 8 clans?" Her words might seem casual, but she actually had an ulterior motive. Her motive was to remind everyone of the previous matter. A faint smile appeared on Lei Yunzi's face. "Thank you for your concern, Elder Lu. Our Xianyuan 8 races are of one mind, so it makes no difference whether we send 8 people or just one." As soon as these words were spoken, many people nodded to themselves, and they were moved by the boldness of Lei Yunzi's words. Elder Lu's eyes flickered slightly, but he continued to welcome him with a smile. On the other hand, the third prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Hongyuan, had a grim expression. It was as if he did not see Lei Yunzi's arrival. After all, the two sides had fought before. Only Fang Tianqiu of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce subconsciously glanced at the silver-haired young man behind Lei Yunzi and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Lei Yun, the person behind you must be the genius of the Huangfu family, Huang Fuyu, right?" As soon as he said that, countless gazes immediately turned to look at the silver-haired young man behind Lei Yunzi. Huang Fuyu. Everyone present could not be more familiar with this name. The genius of the Huangfu family from the Xianyuan 8 clans suppressed all the younger generation of the Xianyuan 8 clans. His aptitude was superb, and his talent was overflowing. Even the 5 sacred grounds had to want to rope him in. Yi Chen stared at the silver-haired young man after hearing what Fang Tianqiu said. His eyes flickered. From the moment the silver-haired young man appeared, he had sensed that the latter was extraordinary. Huang Fuyu. Yi Chen could not help but smirk as he thought to this point, "Are you Huang Fuyu or Su Qilin?" Hearing Fang Tianqiu's words, Lei Yunzi smiled and said, "Fellow Fang, you have a good eye. You actually recognized the most outstanding genius of the Xianyuan 8 clans at a glance." After saying that, he immediately said, "Huang Fuyu, greet all the seniors and fellow Taoists." Under everyone's gazes, the silver-haired young man took a step forward and smiled at everyone. "I'm Huang Fuyu. Greetings, everyone." His silver hair was scattered, and his eyes were resplendent. Many of the younger generation present felt ashamed of their inferiority, and they subconsciously lowered their heads. "Is this person Huang Fuyu? He's so handsome." "That's right. If I can make him my dual cultivation partner, I'm willing even if I have to shorten my lifespan by 20 years. You hussy, save it." In the Tianxian Holy Land, many women who had been extremely calm earlier were now looking at Huang Fuyu with infatuation. Only Luo Xiu's expression was gloomy, and his eyes were burning with jealousy. As if sensing his thoughts, Fang Chengwu could not help but comfort him. "Brother Luo, this person can't be underestimated. It's very likely that he'll be your greatest opponent in the desolate god's tomb." Luo Xiu nodded with a serious expression. At the same time, Fang Ziyue, who was next to Yi Chen, looked at Huang Fuyu and said to him, "Senior Yi, I think the 8 Xianyuan clans are determined to get Huang Fuyu. If you meet him in the desolate god's tomb, avoid him if you can." Yi Chen smiled without saying anything when he heard that. His eyes flashed. "If I meet him, how can I not eliminate him?" If Fang Ziyue were to find out about his thoughts, she would surely be shocked speechless. Nephew Huang Fu has already stepped into the void refinement stage, and is on the same level as us. How can we still call ourselves seniors? The third prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Hongyuan, said indifferently, however, "The desolate god's tomb only allows cultivators below the void refinement stage to enter. Fellow Huang Fu, are you here to play?" As soon as he said this, everyone immediately nodded. Huang Fuyu smiled warmly and said slowly, "Before coming here, I severed a portion of my cultivation base. Now I'm at the perfected soul formation stage." As soon as he finished speaking, the world fell into dead silence. He had severed his cultivation base. Huang Fuyu was clearly at the void refinement stage, but he had severed his cultivation base for the desolate god's tomb, causing his cultivation base to fall to the perfected soul formation stage. It was not an exaggeration to describe this as crazy. After all, countless soul formation cultivators had spent their entire lives trying to enter the void refinement stage. However, the former did the exact opposite. Jiang Hongyuan, Fang Tianqiu, and the rest could not help but look at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. "Nephew, you're so brave." Jiang Hongyuan took a deep breath in and said. The Huangfu family's actions could only mean that they were determined to obtain the items in the desolate god's tomb. Right at this moment, an explosion suddenly came from the void. "Old geezer Lei Yun, your 8 Xianyuan clans are really ambitious. The heavenly sovereign of absolute beginning is here." Hearing this voice, everyone's hearts trembled. Chapter 1531. In the sky, a green figure slowly walked out from the crack in the void, and stood in the air. The rather old figure exuded an aura that made heaven and earth tremble. Surprisingly, the figure was an old man wearing a green jade robe and a purple gold crown. His eyes were black and white, and there was a clear distinction between them. Behind him was a towering young man. The young man's skin was bronze, and he looked valiant and extraordinary. With the appearance of the old man, the entire world outside the forsaken abyss fell silent. Even Lei Yunzi, Lu Ruyan, and the others could not help but look over. The person who came was the heavenly venerate of Taichu, the master of the Holy Land of Taichu. Although the Holy Land of Taichu was ranked at the bottom of the 5 great Holy Lands, it was still one of the 5 great Holy Lands. Ordinary foreign sects could not compare to it. Moreover, the heavenly venerate of Taichu had come personally. The heavenly venerate of Taichu? Yi Chen looked at the old man calmly. A sharp light flashed through his eyes, and he could not help but nod to himself. In terms of temperament, the heavenly venerate of Taichu was in line with his identity as the master of a holy land. The pressure that faintly emanated from his body was not something that Elder Ku could compare to. "Greetings, fellow Taichu." Almost at that moment, Fang Tianqiu of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce, the third prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Hongyuan, and the others nodded to the heavenly venerate of Taichu. Even Lei Yunzi was no exception. The heavenly venerate of Taichu's expression was dignified as his indifferent gaze swept across the crowd. Then, he looked at Fang Tianqiu and the others. "Since everyone is here, let's work together to break the seal." "Haha, of course." Fang Tianqiu smiled slightly, and the others had no objections. The heavenly venerate of Taichu took a step forward and instantly landed above the forsaken abyss. He said slowly, "The forsaken abyss was originally blessed by the great Emperor Xuanyuan's barrier, and the great desolation old man set up a seal on his tomb before he died. If we attack it by force, it will be futile." With that, his gaze suddenly focused as he looked at a certain space on the ground and said, "However, there is a loophole here. If we attack it together, it will not be difficult to break the seal." Fellow Taichu is indeed extraordinary. The great Jiang God dynasty's third prince, Jiang Hongyuan, smiled faintly and said, "The great Jiang God dynasty has already taken control of this loophole. It must be caused by the demonic energy of the demonic earth." Was it caused by the corrosion of demonic energy? Lei Yunzi's expression darkened slightly. If it's been corroded by the devilish qi, then doesn't that mean the entire forsaken abyss has already been enveloped by devilish qi? If we break the seal, then wouldn't the entire outer region be exposed to the devilish qi as well? Humph! The primeval heavenly lord snorted coldly. "Old Thundercloud, since when have you become so timid?" What fellow Taoist Jiang said was only a guess. If that's the case, do you think this seal can trap the demonic earth qi? Since that's the case, let's begin. Lei Yunzi no longer hesitated. He stomped his foot on the ground, and a large bow appeared in the air before him. The bow was bathed in terrifying lightning, as if it was going to destroy the world. Great Thunder Bow. Someone immediately identified the bow as Lei Yunzi's sole treasure. Boom. Lei Yunzi waved his hand casually, and the great thunderous bow immediately erupted with dazzling lightning. Immediately afterward, a lightning-like beam of light shot toward the southeast corner of the forsaken abyss. Its speed was comparable to that of lightning. Wherever it passed, the space collapsed and turned into a prison of lightning, as if it couldn't bear the weight. Whoosh whoosh, after he made his move, a treasured fan suddenly appeared in Fang Tianqiu's hand. As soon as the fan appeared, it immediately expanded, and 7 true spirit Dharma forms appeared on it. On the ground, Fang Qingwu said enviously, "Uncle's 7 birds flame fan." Fang Tianqiu waved the treasured fan in his hand, and a rapidly rotating wave was formed in front of him. As far as the eye could see, it was a sea of red, as if the entire world had turned into a sea of fire. Go! With a shout from Fang Tianqiu, the huge wave was like a sea of fire that crossed the heavens and earth, rapidly attacking the place where Lei Yunzi attacked. Buzz buzz, a golden spear suddenly appeared in the hand of the great Jiang Divine Dynasty's third prince, Jiang Hongyuan. As the spear trembled violently, dazzling golden light blossomed, and in the end, it turned into a golden spear that was 500 feet long and shot out. Meanwhile, a red caltrop suddenly shot out from the hand of Elder Lu Ruyan of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land. The red caltrop seemed to transform into a monstrous blood dragon that whistled out. Unlike the previous few, the Heavenly Venerate of Taichu had his hands behind his back. He didn't seem to move at all, but suddenly, a huge fiery red sword tore through the sky from between his brows. Boom, 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 as the five of them attacked, the world immediately trembled, causing the expressions of everyone on the ground to change drastically. After all, the five of them were all at the void refinement stage, and they had even used their primordial spirit treasures. Such a commotion was only to attack a flaw in the seal of the Forsaken Abyss. One could not help but admire the methods of great Emperor Xianyuan and Old Man of Great Desolation once again. Among the five of them, the Heavenly Venerate of Taichu has the strongest cultivation base. Yi Chen's focus was on the five of them. He thought to himself, their cultivation bases are almost at the beginner void refinement stage, but this Heavenly Venerate of Taichu gives off an unreal feeling. Just as he was thinking, the terrifying attacks of the five of them had already landed heavily on the flaw in the seal of the Forsaken Abyss. Boom! As the earth-shattering sound rang out, everyone realized that the world seemed to be shaking. Subsequently, an energy barrier immediately appeared above the Forsaken Abyss. On the energy barrier, the power of divine inscriptions and talismans surged. Clearly, this energy barrier was the seal of the Forsaken Abyss. Swish! The first to arrive was Lei Yunzi's great thunder bow. With one arrow, the energy barrier shook violently a few times, and many runes were erased. Boom, boom, boom! The attacks of the other four followed closely behind, turning into violent energy that crazily attacked the flaw in the seal. Immediately, an ear-piercing crisp sound rang out. The seal is about to break. Someone saw that a crack that could be seen with the naked eye was gradually appearing on the energy barrier. Before everyone could react, they heard a deafening sound. In the end, the energy barrier could not bear the weight and collapsed, turning into countless terrifying storms that swept in all directions. At the same time, at the entrance of the Forsaken Abyss, a palace that seemed to be built in the clouds appeared. The palace was grand and imposing, and it was incomparably oppressive. It's the Desolate God's Tomb. The Desolate God's Tomb has appeared. The seal has been broken. Charge! Seeing this scene, the people below were overjoyed. Then, they saw figures accompanied by the sound of wind whistling as they turned into long arcs and flew towards the enormous palace. Let's go! Fang Qingwu shouted and charged out all of a sudden. Behind him, Luo Xiu glared at Yi Chen in a creepy manner before following him. Fang Ziyue was eager to give it a try. Senior Yi, let's go too. End of this chapter. Chapter 1532. However, Yi Chen did not answer. He raised his eyes and looked into the distance. Among the many figures, there were people from the five holy lands, such as the great Jiang God dynasty's godson, Jiang Li, and the heavenly Jade Holy Land's saintess. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's gaze finally landed on the 8 Xianyuan clans. Over there, the graceful Huang Fuyu was not in a hurry. It was as if he was not in a hurry to rush in. His calm and composed temperament was unique in the chaotic crowd. Huang Fuyu, do you still remember your mission this time? Lei Yunzi looked at the genius of the Huangfu family calmly. The Great Desolation Elder is suspected to be a powerhouse above the Void Refinement stage. Your mission is to obtain the Great Desolation Elder's inheritance. This concerns the future of the 8 Xianyuan clans. Grandmaster Lei Yun, Huang Fuyu knows. Huang Fuyu remained calm in the face of his reminder. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and looked at Yi Chen. The two of them looked at each other before quickly looking away. There was no surprise or other emotions, as if they had seen strangers. Lei Yunzi took a deep look at the former before saying to the paragons of the 8 Xianyuan clans behind him, "As for your mission, I believe you've already known about it. I only have one thing to say: come back alive." Although the people of the 5 Holy Lands were welcoming each other with smiles on their faces, in reality, they were like fire and water. In the outside world, with their seniors taking care of them, no one dared to touch them. However, in the desolate god's tomb, it was inevitable that they would attack each other. If they died, they would die. After all, outsiders were not immortals, so they could not know what was going on inside. Yes. Following a chorus of voices, many young men and women moved their bodies and rushed towards the desolate god's tomb. Huang Fuyu was at the back. Seeing that more and more people were entering, Fang Ziyue could not hold it in anymore. She urged Yi Chen, "Senior Yi, let's go in quickly. Let's go." Yi Chen waved his sleeve and carried Fang Ziyue toward the entrance of the desolate god's tomb. He was neither fast nor slow among the crowd. Even so, his figure still attracted the attention of many people. In the void, the great Jiang God dynasty's third prince, Jiang Hongyuan, looked at Yi Chen's back like a divine lamp. He said to Fang Tianqiu, "Fellow Fang, is this person the external help that your Tianyuan Trade Association invited?" Fang Tianqiu was slightly stunned. He immediately looked toward the voice and saw Yi Chen next to Fang Ziyue. He could not help but say nonchalantly, "That's right. This person is the external help that the Purple faction hired." He seemed to have thought of something and added, "This person killed Tian Xiezi's junior brother, Old Man Tianmo, Elder Tianmo?" His words immediately attracted the attention of the rest. Lei Yunzi glanced at Yi Chen's back and said in surprise, "Although Old Man Tianmo is only at stage soul formation, he's not far from void refinement. This person is quite capable to be able to kill him." Then, he couldn't help but shake his head. "It's a pity. He killed Old Man Tianmo and is destined to offend Tian Xiezi. Although Tian Xiezi's temperament is unbearable, he is still at the void training stage." As soon as he finished speaking, a mocking voice sounded in his ears. "No matter how strong he is he stronger than Mad Southern Yi from China?" It was the heavenly venerate of absolute beginning who had spoken. Hearing the words, Mad Southern Yi, the eyes of many present flickered. They could not be more familiar with this name. In fact, whether it was directly or indirectly, there were some grudges between them. Lei Yunzi's expression darkened slightly as he frowned and said, "Fellow Tai Chu, this matter has already been resolved. Why do you have to bring it up again?" He had mixed feelings about these 3 words. He, Lei Yunzi, was someone who truly cared about China. Otherwise, the higher-ups would not have appointed him to be in charge of Yin Su. Naturally, he was overjoyed that China had someone as talented as Yi Chen. However, everything that Yi Chen did after returning to Earth had broken the balance and put China in a dangerous situation. Coupled with the Gu family of the Xianyuan 8 clans stirring up trouble, many people in the Xianyuan 8 clans viewed Yi Chen with hostility. In order to maintain this balance, he could only bear the pain and give up on Yi Chen. Bring it up again? The heavenly venerate of absolute beginning snorted coldly and said, "Don't forget the conditions that I mentioned earlier. You guys haven't agreed to them yet." "That's impossible." Hearing this, Lei Yunzi was immediately enraged. "Don't bring trouble to your family. You, the heavenly venerate of absolute beginning, don't even understand this logic? Even if Mad Southern Yi is in the wrong, what's wrong with his family?" In the battle a few days ago, the Yan Huang fortress finally compromised, and the price of compromise was to expel Mad Southern Yi. The heavenly venerate of absolute beginning also raised another condition, which was Yi Chen's parents, wife, and children. However, as soon as this condition was raised, It was strongly opposed by Lei Yunzi and the rest. Don't you dare raise this condition again. Lei Yunzi narrowed his eyes and said firmly, just because China doesn't want to cause trouble doesn't mean that we're afraid of it. Seeing this, the heavenly venerate of absolute beginning's expression changed slightly. In the end, he did not insist anymore. He knew very well that China still had hidden tricks up their sleeve. If they continued to force it, it would only endanger themselves. A powerhouse from the Panwu Immortal sect said coldly, "Our Panwu Immortal sect will not let this brat off. If we find out that China is protecting this brat, we won't let this matter rest. That depends on your abilities." Lei Yunzi waved his sleeve and did not speak anymore. At the entrance of the Forsaken Abyss, when the figures passed by, they immediately felt an invisible pressure. Plop! Many people fell heavily to the ground and vomited blood. When they looked at the huge palace that was close at hand again, their faces were filled with shock. What a powerful formation! The Great Desolation Old Man is really something. He's still causing trouble even after he's dead. He's not letting us fly in his tomb. Someone cursed, but he obediently walked toward the huge palace step by step, no longer daring to fly in the air. When Yi Chen arrived with Fang Ziyue, he saw Fang Qingwu and Luo Xiu guarding the place as if they were waiting for someone. Are they going to fight here? Fang Ziyue's expression changed slightly. The first thing she thought of was that Luo Xiu could not hold it in anymore and wanted to attack Yi Chen in advance to avenge Old Man Tianimo. However, in the next moment a group of people walked over. The person leading them was Huang Fuyu. Luo Xiu stared straight at Huang Fuyu, and his originally gloomy face immediately revealed a smile. "Genius disciple of the Huangfu family, you're quite bold. You didn't hesitate to sever your cultivation base to enter the desolate god's tomb." The provocation in his eyes was self-evident. B****, how dare you be so rude to Brother Yu? You're just a rogue cultivator. Who do you think you are? His words immediately attracted the angry glares of many young disciples of the 8 Xianyuan clans. Currently, Huang Fuyu was a legend among the younger generation of the 8 Xianyuan clans. However, Huang Fuyu ignored Luo Xiu's provocation as if he did not see it. Subsequently, his gaze landed on Yi Chen, and a gentle smile bloomed on his calm face. "Brother Yi, long time no see." End of this chapter. Chapter 1533. Brother Yi, long time no see. Huang Fuyu had silver hair, and he looked like a god who had descended to the mortal world. His eyes were dazzling as he looked at Yi Chen quietly as if he was seeing an old friend. There was not the slightest bit of enmity or arrogance coming from him. "That's right, long time no see." Yi Chen looked at him and tried to see through his mind. "I didn't expect to meet you in this way and in this situation." He smiled and stared straight at the former. "Should I call you Su Qilin or Huang Fuyu?" At this moment, he was almost certain that the genius disciple of the Huangfu family before him was Su Qilin, whom he had killed back then. It seemed like Chu Zhongtian, the carnal desires sect master, did not lie to him. Facing his question, Huang Fuyu smiled lightly. "Su Qilin is my past, and Huang Fuyu is my present. As for the future, I don't know what I'll be called. Brother Yi, since it's the past, shouldn't we let it go?" He seemed to be looking at Yi Chen sincerely as he spoke to this point. At the same time, Fang Ziyue, Luo Xiu, and the rest watched this scene in disbelief. Yi Chen knew Huang Fuyu? Judging from their conversation, they did not seem like strangers at all. Due to the situation, Fang Ziyue could only hide her doubts in her heart and did not ask. However, her beautiful eyes could not help but size up Huang Fuyu. Her eyes shone brightly. As for the younger generation of the Xianyuan 8 clans behind Huang Fuyu, although they were puzzled, they did not dare interrupt. Meanwhile, Luo Xiu's face was extremely livid. He was the external help of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce's Orange faction. Apart from Huang Fuyu, he did not take anyone seriously. For that, He had specially waited for Huang Fuyu at the entrance of the desolate god's tomb. Never did he expect that Huang Fuyu would not even look at him from the beginning to the end. Instead, he was chatting happily with Yi Chen, who he thought was dead. How could he not be furious? Yi Chen looked at Huang Fuyu calmly and said calmly, "Do you want to let go of the past with me?" He had changed. Su Qilin had changed. If Su Qilin was said to be an unparalleled genius of the sword sect in the past, then the current Huang Fuyu was like a sage who knew the truth and understood everything. This was the scariest part of it all, because no one knew whether it was a cold gaze or a pure heart that was as pure as Bodhi under his sincere smile. Let the grudges of the past go with the wind. Huang Fuyu met his gaze and smiled. "Brother Yi, we both know each other very well. Moreover, Yuhan is in the middle of this. We really shouldn't be enemies. Why don't we work together to achieve the great Tao?" His gaze and expression were so sincere that people couldn't help but want to believe and even accept him. "Whatever." Yi Chen looked at him for a few seconds before saying while smiling, "I'll still say the same thing. As long as you don't provoke me, we'll be fine. Otherwise, I promise I won't leave any future trouble. Go!" After he finished speaking, he immediately took a step forward and called out to Fang Ziyue as he walked towards the entrance of the desolate god's tomb. The latter was stunned for a few seconds before following, but her heart was filled with doubts. Meanwhile, Huang Fuyu stood where he was quietly. After watching Yi Chen enter, he said to the people behind him gently, "Let's go in too." "Wait." Right at that moment, a discordant voice rang out. Huang Fuyu looked over and saw Luo Xiu looking at him indifferently. He seemed to be provoking him. "Huang Fuyu, you better pray that you don't meet me in the tomb. Otherwise, you, the genius of the Huangfu family, might die inside." At the end of his sentence, he suddenly grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. The depths of his gloomy eyes were filled with coldness. Hearing that, a young man from the Xianyuan 8 clans chuckled and said, "Luo, do you think you're worthy of threatening Brother Yu?" "Brother Luo, don't worry. You won't die in my hands." Huang Fuyu raised his hand to signal the people behind him to be quiet. Then, he smiled, "Because you're not worthy." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked out with his men. Meanwhile, Luo Xiu's expression turned completely grim. His eyes were practically spewing intense killing intent. "Yi and Huang Fuyu, just you wait. I'll let you know what regret is." Fang Qingwu's expression changed slightly as he said, "Brother Luo, don't forget the purpose of our trip." The vast and boundless world was silent. A desolate aura filled the world, as if it had been sealed for countless years. Sizzle, however, this silence had been broken at some point in time. A huge crack had appeared in the void, and 2 figures rushed out from the crack. One of them felt as if her body was weightless, and she fell down at an extremely fast speed uncontrollably. "Be careful!" At that moment, a wide and powerful arm quickly grabbed her slender waist and carried her down steadily. In the end, they landed safely on the ground. "Thank you." Fang Ziyue's face heated up subconsciously when she felt the strength coming from her waist. She bit her red lips and looked at Yi Chen gratefully. "This space has always been a separate grotto heaven." Yi Chen looked at the vast space around him and said with a frown, "The great desolation old man added many formations here before he died, causing the law of gravity here to be more than 50 times stronger than the outside world." 50 times? Fang Ziyue's eyes widened in disbelief when she heard that. Then, she seemed to have thought of something and said, "Senior Yi, why are there so many people here? Why are there only the 2 of us here?" "It's simple." Yi Chen smiled lightly. "It's because the teleportation formation at the entrance of the desolate god's tomb teleported everyone to different places in the tomb. However, the space in the tomb is limited, so we'll meet sooner or later. In other words, we might meet Luo Xiu and Huang Fuyu." Fang Ziyue thought of the crux of the problem in the blink of an eye. What she was most worried about was encountering Luo Xiu as soon as she entered. With the grudge between Luo Xiu and Yi Chen, Coupled with Luo Xiu's vengeful personality, they would definitely fight. That makes sense. Yi Chen nodded and said, "Can you tell me where we're going now?" Fang Ziyue was stunned. A compass suddenly appeared in her hand. At that moment there was a red dot jumping on the compass. She pointed at the red on the compass. "Senior Yi, the thing I'm looking for is at this red. The northwest corner?" Yi Chen squinted slightly and led Fang Ziyue to the red dot. At that moment, the trees around the two of them, that were still like dead things, suddenly shook violently. Then, beams of dark light shot out, directly tearing through space and attacking the two of them. P.S. Some chapters have been blocked recently. I'm working hard to edit them, so I can only update one chapter today. I'll update one more chapter tomorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 1534. The beams of dark light were like tentacles that were as fast as lightning, catching them off guard. "Watch out!" Fang Ziyue exclaimed immediately. Yi Chen was neither fast nor slow. He used his fingers as a saber and advanced instead of retreating. He slashed at the terrifying light that was shooting at him. Whoosh, whoosh. Subsequently, the sound of metal colliding was heard, accompanied by sparks that shot out in all directions. The terrifying shock wave directly shattered the ground around them. When they looked again, the beams of dark light that shot out earlier had already fallen to the ground. They had lost their original luster and looked like withered branches. Fang Ziyue's expression changed slightly. "It's the branches that attacked us?" However, Yi Chen did not answer. He lifted his head and looked at the dense forest 300 meters away. His gaze was fixed on an ancient tree that seemed to have withered. He mocked, "So there's a tree demon that has turned into a spirit here." As soon as he said that, rustle, 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 a strange sound rang out from the forest. Countless trees seemed to have come to life, and they retreated in unison. In the end, an ancient tree that seemed to be made of bronze was revealed. The ancient tree was dazzling, and it seemed to be wrapped in divine light. "It's the heavenly demon treasure tree." Yi Chen's eyes flickered slightly. The so-called heavenly demon treasure tree was a rare refining material in the cultivation world. Its tree core was most suitable to help cultivators calm down and nurture their souls. The heavenly demon treasure tree before him was equivalent to a perfected god transformation stage cultivator. Hiss! The heavenly demon treasure tree let out a hissing sound. Branches that blotted out the sky immediately whizzed toward Yi Chen. From afar, it looked like sword chi that tore through the air. "An animal will always be an animal." Yi Chen scoffed and waved his hand. "Come, sword!" Buzz! As the air trembled, there seemed to be lightning exploding in the air. Subsequently, a bolt of lightning that looked like a lightning dragon appeared in Yi Chen's hand. It was the true martial thousand lightning sword. Myriad sword return. In an instant, sword gleams that filled the sky exploded in Yi Chen's hand. The scene was like a huge golden umbrella that covered the entire space. Kacha kacha, under the tens of thousands of sword lights, the branches of the heavenly demon treasure tree that covered the sky were all chopped off. Without exception, green blood splattered everywhere. Such powerful swordsmanship! Fang Ziyue's beautiful eyes were filled with splendor. "I didn't expect Senior Yi to not only be a dual cultivator of Dharma and martial arts, but he is also proficient in the sword Dao." Swoosh! In the next moment, the heavenly demon treasure tree suddenly shook violently and quickly sank into the ground. Clearly, it realized that it was no match for Yi Chen and wanted to burrow into the ground. "Evil creature, you want to run away after acting tough?" Yi Chen scoffed and performed a hand seal. Earth-shattering seal. The heavenly devil treasure tree was horrified to find that the ground it was standing on had become incomparably hard, like steel. No matter what it did, it couldn't do anything. Swoosh! Yi Chen's figure flashed and appeared before it instantly. A sword gleam wrapped in lightning sliced through the air directly and slashed at the heart of the tree. The sword light easily pierced through the tree's body. Then, like a nuclear bomb exploding, it turned into endless energy that wreaked havoc in the tree's body. Boom! With a loud bang, the heavenly demon treasure tree turned into countless pieces that scattered everywhere. At the spot where it had collapsed, a green luster hovered in the air. The green luster was like a Bodhi heart. It gave off a captivating aura. It was as if one could enter a meditative state at any time under that aura. The heavenly demon treasure tree's heart? Fang Ziyue could not help but be elated when she saw that. Clearly, she had finally recognized what it was, and it seems to be a high-grade one. If this item were to be sold in the outside world, its value wouldn't be lower than a void refinement cultivation method. At that moment, a few ear-piercing sounds shot over from afar. Subsequently, they landed before Yi Chen and the rest. There were 3 men in different attires. The leading old man had a beard and a terrifying scar on his face. One could tell that he was ruthless with just a glance. 2 of them were at the advanced stage God transformation stage, and one was at the perfect stage God transformation stage. Someone looked at the green luster in the air greedily. He gulped and said, "Brother, it's the heavenly demon treasure tree's heart." The bearded old man was drooling too. However, he turned his head to take a good look at Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue. A gleam flashed through his eyes when he saw Fang Ziyue. He said while smiling, "Oh, it's Ms. Fang from the Tianyuan Trade Association. Who are you guys?" Fang Ziyue frowned slightly. "We're known as the Ghost Spirit Trio." The full-bearded old man chuckled. "However, with Miss Fang's status, you will definitely not have heard of the 3 of us. Miss Fang, on account of the Heavenly Yuan Merchant Association, leave immediately. We might show mercy." "Are you guys robbing us of the heavenly demon treasure tree's heart?" Fang Ziyue laughed in anger. She, Fang Ziyue, was quite famous in the Yin ruins. Never had she thought that she would be robbed as soon as she entered. Otherwise? The bearded old man's eyes turned cold. "Are you trying to make things difficult for us, Miss Fang? Although you're a genius of the Fang family, don't forget that my cultivation level isn't lower than yours. Moreover, there are only 2 of you. Brother, why are you wasting your breath on her?" A middle-aged man next to him smirked. He looked at Fang Ziyue lecherously. "Why don't we capture the 2 of them together? We'll kill the man. As for Ms. Fang, as for Ms. Fang, why don't you help the 3 of us? This is the desolate god's tomb anyway. The Tianyuan Trade Association doesn't have the ability to spy on us. We'll just push the blame to other organizations when the time comes." The man gulped hard as he spoke to this point. Fang Ziyue's pretty face turned pale from anger. She had never been humiliated with such filthy words in the outside world before. Yi Chen said while smiling calmly, "What should we do? Kill him?" Fang Ziyue's eyes turned cold. "Sure." Yi Chen nodded lightly. Yi Chen slapped his hand out directly. The bearded old man did not expect Yi Chen to attack as soon as they met. He was going to attack in his rage. "How dare you, brat? You're really seeking death." Before he was done speaking, he turned into a bloody mist with a slap. Meanwhile, the other 2 were dumbstruck. Never had they thought that a perfected God transformation stage powerhouse would be killed with a slap just like that. "Senior, spare me. Spare me," one of them jolted and knelt hard before Yi Chen immediately. He was shaking like a sieve. He could kill a perfected God transformation stage powerhouse with a slap. Even if he was not on void refinement, he was close to it. He was horrified as he thought to this point. Meanwhile, the other person ran away without saying anything when he realized that the situation was not right. Pft, pft, in the blink of an eye, 2 bloody mists exploded in the air again. Yi Chen then grabbed the heavenly demon treasure tree's heart through the air. "Let's go." He turned his head to look at Fang Ziyue, who was dumbstruck. End of this chapter. Chapter 1535. Fang Ziyue could not help but gulp when she met Yi Chen's gaze. She said weakly, "Senior Yi, are you sure you're not at void refinement?" She had seen Yi Chen's techniques before, but she did not expect him to kill 3 people with a flip of his palm. His lightning-fast techniques were too shocking. No! Yi Chen bent down and picked up the storage rings of the three of them. He shook his head lightly and led her to the northwest corner. The desolate god's tomb was located in the south. It was a ring-shaped area formed by countless rocks. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and the ground was covered in half-meter-tall withered leaves and rotten beasts' corpses. Many rotting gases evolved and eventually turned into miasma that filled a radius of 100 kilometers. It was as if a black curtain had been placed over it. At that moment, two figures were chasing wildly in the forest. The one leading was a woman in green. She was only 16 or 18 years old. The woman's face was pale as she ran for her life, as if she was hiding from someone. A few hundred meters behind her, there was a sword gleam following closely. On the sword gleam was a sinister-looking middle-aged man. The man looked at the figure in front of him, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his lips. His gaze was like a cat toying with a mouse. He could have caught up to the woman earlier, but he was not in a hurry because the woman was already at the end of her tether and could not hold on for long. The two figures, one in front and one behind, traversed over 100 kilometers. The woman in green spat another mouthful of blood, and her speed instantly increased by more than twofold. However, as soon as the distance widened, the middle-aged man with the sword gleam instantly closed the distance. The woman could not help but reveal a bitter expression. She had been running for an hour. During this hour, the other party had been following closely behind her. If she had not used her escape technique at all costs, he would have caught up to her long ago. However, she knew very well that she could only use this escape technique a few times. Once the spiritual energy in her body was exhausted, she would not be able to escape. Thinking to this point, she could only force herself to continue running forward. The middle-aged man who was chasing behind frowned slightly and shouted, "Little girl from the heavenly jade Holy Land, you won't be able to hold on for long. Why don't you hand over that pill fragment? I promise to let you live." The azure-clothed woman didn't slow down. She said in despair, "Senior, I don't understand what you're talking about. Since you know that I'm from the heavenly jade Holy Land, you should know that the holy daughter of the heavenly jade Holy Land is also here. If she finds out..." As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately felt the monstrous killing intent coming from behind her, and her expression couldn't help but change. After that, she bit her lips and said, "Senior, why don't you let me go? I, Yunshi, guarantee that I won't tell anyone about what happened today." "Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me." The expression of the middle-aged man who was controlling the sword light turned cold. He then used all his strength to control the flying sword to fly away. His eyes were extremely cold. The azure-clothed woman's words reminded him that if he continued like this and attracted the attention of the people from the heavenly jade Holy Land, it would be difficult for him to escape. Boom! His figure was like a bolt of lightning, catching up to the woman in a few breaths. Almost at that instant, the green-clothed woman who was fleeing for her life also felt this change, and she could not help but feel despair. Could it be that I, Yunshi, am really going to die here? Ha ha ha, slut from the heavenly jade Holy Land. The middle-aged man could not help but become extremely ferocious when he saw that. "Don't worry, I, Taoist Master Feng Yang, won't kill you directly. Instead, I'll let you die in comfort. I'll let you experience what's so special about the women that the heavenly jade Holy Land trains." Hearing that, the green-clothed woman's body trembled violently. Then, she stopped and closed her eyes, about to self-destruct. Almost at that instant, two figures rushed over from afar. It was a man and a woman. The woman was as beautiful as fire while the man was a handsome young man. Who else could it be but Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue? The sudden scene caused Taoist Master Feng Yang to pause. He looked at Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue in fear. "I'm Taoist Master Feng Yang. Greetings, Ms. Fang." Hearing that, the green-clothed woman who was about to self-destruct suddenly opened her eyes. Then, as if she had seen her savior, she said, "Sister Fang, save me. I'm Yunxi, a disciple of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land." "You're from the Heavenly Jade Holy Land?" Fang Ziyue said with a slight frown. Yunxi nodded immediately. "That's right. Sister Fang, this Taoist master Fengyang has his eyes on my purple color, and is trying to do something to me. Please save me." Fang Ziyue could not help but look at Taoist master Fengyang as soon as she said that. Her expression turned slightly cold. She despised such lowly people the most. Taoist master Fengyang's expression changed and he shook his head hard. "Ms. Fang, you mustn't believe this lady's lies. This lady stole something from me, that's why I came all the way here." "Nonsense." Yunxi's face turned pale from anger, but she had no other words to explain herself. Both of them knew that the item was extremely important. They could not let a third party know about it no matter what. Otherwise, it would be a wasted effort. At that moment, Fang Ziyue could not tell who was telling the truth. She could not help but look at Yi Chen. "Senior Yi, what do you think?" Yi Chen glanced at Taoist Master Fengyang and Yunxi coldly. Meeting his gaze, Taoist Master Fengyang and Yunxi could not help but panic for some reason. Subsequently, they lowered their heads at the same time. "Let's go," Yi Chen said coldly as he retracted his gaze. Fang Ziyue was stunned at first, but she did not ask further. Clearly, she knew that Yi Chen did not want to be a busybody. While Taoist Master Fengyang was secretly delighted to see that, the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed. He secretly made up his mind to kill Yunxi after he obtained the item from her and escape to Heavenly Evil City. He had no choice because Fang Ziyue and Fang Ziyue already knew about this. Meanwhile, Yunxi's face turned pale. She could not help but say, "Ms. Fang, as long as you save me, I'm willing to hand over the item in my hand." At that moment, she finally panicked. If Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue really did not care about her, she would definitely die. Fang Ziyue stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at her. "What is it?" Yunxi bit her lip and said, "A fragment of a holy herb." "Shut up, bitch." At the same time, Taoist Master Fengyang suddenly attacked. He attacked Yunxi with all his might. Clearly, he wanted to shut her up, but it was too late. Boom! In an instant, a pressure that belonged to a perfected God transformation cultivator exploded from his body. Under the pressure, Yunxi felt like a mountain was pressing down on her. She was extremely terrified. Just when Taoist Master Fengyang's hand was less than an inch away from Yunxi, he suddenly stopped. He suddenly realized that he could not move his body at all, as if an invisible hand was controlling him. Yi Chen turned around slowly and looked at the pale Yunxi calmly. He said calmly, "Did you say that you have a fragment of the holy herb?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1536. Not bad. Yunxi pursed her lips and nodded slowly. At the same time, extreme shock surged within her. An existence like Taoist Master Fengyang, who was at perfected God transformation stage, was frozen in the air like a puppet. Even the saintess of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land could not do that. At that moment, she finally realized that Yi Chen was the truly terrifying one among Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue's group. On the other hand, although Taoist Master Fengyang, who was frozen in midair, could not move, he was extremely glad. His eyes widened as if he had seen something terrifying. "Take it out." Yi Chen walked to Yunxi slowly and extended his hand. He said, "If you're not lying to me, I'll kill this person for you. If you're lying to me, all of you will die." Meeting his gaze, Yunxi's heart shuddered, and the hesitation in her mind was instantly thrown away completely. She opened her storage ring with trembling hands. Immediately, an item that looked like a tortoise shell landed in her hand. There were patterns that were difficult to see with the naked eye engraved on it. It was indeed the incomplete map of the 5-element heavenly lotus. Yi Chen nodded calmly. He had no less than 3 map fragments now. Including this one, He still needed the one in the Tianyuan Trade Association's secret treasure and the one in the Mermaid Clan's patriarch's hand. He could piece the entire map fragment together and find out the exact whereabouts of the five-element heavenly lotus. Seeing that he was not moving, Yunshi was extremely nervous. She immediately spoke weakly, "Senior." She was extremely worried that Yi Chen did not need the holy medicine fragment. If that was the case, then her fate bang. Before she could finish speaking, she suddenly heard an explosion. She turned her head by instinct and saw Taoist Master Feng Yang, who was frozen in midair, explode and turn into a bloody mist. Yunshi stood still with a terrified expression. Taoist Master Feng Yang, who had forced her to the point of almost self-destructing earlier, was dead just like that? She did not even have the ability to resist. "I want this." Yi Chen looked at her and said, "I'll keep my promise and kill this person for you. Of course, this item is precious, and I don't want to take advantage of you. You can make a request." I wouldn't dare." Yunshi nodded repeatedly. "Senior being able to save my life is already an enormous kindness. How could Junior dare to make any further requests? Since that's the case, then I won't force you." Yi Chen shook his head and changed the topic. "Now, can you tell me where did you get the remnant of the holy medicine?" Even he did not expect that he would be able to obtain a fragment of the five-element heavenly lotus in the desolate god's tomb. Yunshi did not dare to look him in the eye. She held her breath and said, "Senior, I obtained this item from the desolate god's tomb. To be more precise, I obtained it from the stomach of an ape-type demonic beast." "An ape mystical beast?" Yi Chen frowned. Yunshi thought that he did not believe her, and immediately said, "That's right, it is an ape-type demon beast. As soon as Junior entered the desolate god's tomb, he was attacked by it, and Junior obtained it from its stomach after killing it." Yi Chen looked at her quietly. He said after seeing that she did not seem to be faking it, "Where did you find that ape-type mystical beast?" He was not willing to let go of any clues that were related to the five-element heavenly lotus. After all, it concerned Su Yuhan's life. In the middle of the desolate god's tomb, this place was the closest to the great desolation old man's main tomb. However, what was strange was that countless vegetation here had been demonized. The terrifying demonic energy did not dissipate all year round, as if it was showing signs of devouring outwards. Bang! After a figure forcefully annihilated a demonized giant snake, he looked at the surrounding scene that was like purgatory on earth and frowned. "What exactly are these black things? They are actually so difficult to deal with." This figure seemed to be a man. His chest and abdomen were exposed, his cheekbones were high, and his brows were extremely fierce. "Brother Luo." A young man slowly walked out from beside him. The young man said with a serious expression, "This black energy looks a little like demonic energy. Could it be that this desolate god's tomb has also been invaded by the demonic energy in the demonic soil?" The two of them were Luo Xiu and Fang Qingwu. Luo Xiu was surprised. "Demonic energy?" Sensing his confusion, Fang Qingwu said rather proudly, "Brother Luo might not know, but in this universe, there is a great world enveloped in demonic energy. This world is known as the demon world. The living beings of the demon world are all bathed in demonic energy and have fierce temperaments. Rumor has it that the master of the demon world has a status comparable to the celestial world's venerable emperor." Hearing these words, Luo Xiu's pupils violently constricted. He was only a rogue cultivator, so he did not know that there was such a secret. Now that he heard Fang Qingwu's words, a storm was set off in his heart. "Looks like it really is as old Ghost Lei Yun said. The seal left behind by the great Emperor Xianyuan can no longer suppress the demonic soil. The demonic energy of the demonic soil has begun to corrode the core and periphery of the Yin ruins." Fang Qingwu said worriedly, "I hope that the corrosion of the desolate god's tomb is not serious. Otherwise, once a terrifying monster is born, even a void refinement stage cultivator will have a headache." I wonder where that Yi fellow is right now? Luo Xiu's eyes narrowed and became ghastly cold. I do not wish for this child to die prematurely in the desolate god's tomb, because I have already said that I will personally capture him, grind his bones to dust, extract his soul, and refine it. Brother Luo, you must not be careless. Fang Qingwu said in a deep voice. Don't forget what we saw before entering the tomb. That Yi fellow and Huang Fuyu seem to be old friends. If you deal with him, Huang Fuyu might intervene. Huang Fuyu, Luo Xiu's pupils constricted slightly as if he was afraid. Your worries are not unreasonable. A mere Yi fellow is nothing to worry about, but if Huang Fuyu is added, it will be a little troublesome. So, what I mean is, why don't we form an alliance? Fang Qingwu said. Luo Xiu looked at him. An alliance? That's right. Fang Qingwu nodded and said, it will be very difficult for the two of us to deal with Huang Fuyu. Why don't we form an alliance with the Panwu immortal sect and the great Jiang God dynasty? At that time, even if we encounter Huang Fuyu and that Yi fellow, we will not be afraid at all. Good plan. Luo Xiu's eyes lit up, and he said with a sinister smile, Huang Fuyu is from the Yan Huang fortress, and he is not on good terms with the great Jiang God dynasty and the Panwu immortal sect. If we form an alliance, Jiang Li and the others will definitely be happy. I have another plan. Fang Qingwu said again. After we form an alliance, we will kill that Yi brat first. That way, apart from the few good-for-nothings from the Xianyuan 8 families, Huang Fuyu will be alone. He won't be able to cause too much trouble. All right, after forming an alliance, we will join forces with Jiang Li and the others to kill that Yi fellow first. Luo Xiu laughed loudly. Even though we don't have to use such a great array of forces to deal with that kid, but for the sake of preventing the situation from changing, it's better to play it safe. I don't believe that the joint forces of us great geniuses are unable to kill a nobody. End of this chapter. Chapter 1537. It was located to the west of the desolate god's tomb. Following the guidance of the heavenly jade Holy Land's disciple, Yun Shi's memory, Yi Qin sped west. He only wanted to check if there were any other fragments of the 5-element heaven lotus. This time, he did not bring Yun Shi and Fang Ziyue along. Instead, he got the 2 girls to wait for him. After all, it was related to the 5-element heaven lotus. In less than an hour, he arrived at the place that Yun Shi had mentioned. It was a vast expanse of whiteness. A hazy fog enveloped everything, as if a sea of clouds was churning. However, this fog was bone-piercingly cold, as if it could freeze a person's soul. If a person with a low cultivation base stepped into it, they would be frozen into an ice sculpture instantly. Whoosh, 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 Yi Chen stood in the endless cold fog. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and he was not affected at all. However, his divine consciousness spread out and covered an area of 50 kilometers. Although this place was not big, there were many ferocious beasts and demons in the fog. There were even cultivators fighting crazily with the former. There were even a few rather powerful auras. Over there. Yi Chen suddenly looked at the northwest corner. There, he sensed a few powerful auras fighting at that moment. There was also a pungent smell of blood. Boom. He took a step forward and soared into the sky, turning into a long rainbow that pierced through the heavens and earth as he teleported towards the northwest corner. Rumble! His speed was extremely fast, and he mercilessly crushed the cold waterfall that had condensed in the air. As a result, the air emitted an earth-shattering rumble. What a powerful aura! Who is this person? Could it be that someone is coming for the Jade Fire Golden-Eyed Ape again? Almost at that instant, the figures that were fighting on the ground all sensed the tremors in the air. They raised their heads at the same time to size it up, and their faces were filled with shock. Even an ordinary late-stage soul formation cultivator would have to deal with the bone-piercing cold fog carefully, afraid that they would die if they were careless. However, at that moment, someone ignored this and arrogantly passed through the space condensed by the cold waterfall. To their regret, the cold fog in the air was too dense. Coupled with Yi Chen's speed as fast as lightning, they could not capture his figure. 100 miles deep into the cold mist was a heavenly stream. At this moment, numerous shapeless restrictions and formations were circulating in the sky, and they were refined into one. They covered an area of 5 kilometers, and energy surged while killing intent rose and fell continuously. Put in more effort, this beast won't be able to hold on much longer. Stabilize the formation. Don't let that evil creature escape. Waves of intense battle sounds vaguely resounded from the heavenly stream. It was accompanied by the furious roars of ferocious beasts, causing the formation in the sky to shake and crack. Heavenly Jade Fairy, this evil creature is running towards you. Jiangli, who was dressed in crimson battle robes, held a long spear in his hand and guarded one side. His expression was ferocious as he watched the enormous black shadow-like creature in the distance charge toward the southeast corner. There were many figures standing guard around him. They were the people from the Heavenly Jade Holy Land, the Panwu Immortal Sect, and the Taichu Dojo. If one took a closer look, they would discover that it was a giant ape that was nearly 300 meters tall. Its entire body was blooming with jade-green flames, and its eyes were incomparably resplendent like 2 small suns. Roar! The giant ape was covered in blood, as if it had been forced into a corner. It simply roared at the sky and urged its huge body to pounce toward the Heavenly Jade Holy Maiden who was guarding the southeast corner. Its roar immediately produced a terrifying sound wave that shook the Heavenly Jade Holy Maiden's eardrums to the point that she almost could not hold on. Form the formation, quickly form the formation. Seeing this scene, the great Jiang God dynasty's godson, Jiangli, shouted like thunder. As soon as he finished speaking, the few of them attacked at the same time, quickly forming a mysterious formation around the giant ape. Then, as true origin energy surged, streams of mysterious power condensed into a terrifying energy barrier. Roar! The giant ape seemed to have sensed the power of the formation. It roared again, and its huge hand that was like a giant pillar that could hold up the sky slammed down. The terrifying force immediately caused the formation to tremble violently. Puff! Under that terrifying impact, Jiang Li and the others all vomited blood. Their faces were extremely dispirited, but even so, they still defended the formation with all their might. After the giant ape unleashed that attack, it roared again and again. The 5 fingers on its palm were all broken, and scarlet blood splattered everywhere. It can't hold on much longer. Seeing this, Jiang Li's face lit up. The few of them had accidentally found a dragon scale origin tree here. What surprised them even more was that there were 3 dragon scale origin fruits on the dragon scale origin tree. The so-called dragon scale origin fruit was one of the main ingredients to refine the void-soaring dragon pill. How could they not be excited? Before they could divide up the dragon scale origin fruit, a guardian demonic beast, the jade fire golden-eyed ape, jumped out, and the 2 sides instantly began to fight. Although the jade fire golden-eyed ape's strength was equivalent to a human at the great perfection of the soul formation stage, it was a demonic beast with rough skin and flesh. Coupled with its extraordinary talent, it was extremely fierce. Even with the combined strength of the few of them, it was difficult to take it down in a short time. Hearing Jiang Li's angry roar, the others also attacked with all their strength. However, at that moment, they felt at the same time that the restriction they had set up to stop the many cultivators outside had been broken. Moreover, it was broken by someone at the same time. Oh no! The expressions of Jiang Li and the others instantly changed. Someone broke in. Bastard! The true disciple of the Panwu celestial sect was infuriated. Who the hell dares to ignore our orders and break the restriction by force? In order to deal with the jade fire golden-eyed ape, the few of them had used all their means. How could they let someone else enjoy the fruits of their labor? Everyone, let's kill this person first. Jiang Li's face was also filled with murderous intent. Boom. In the next moment, the entire void where the heavenly stream was located exploded violently. They saw a young man in green robes walking in the air with his hands behind his back. Wherever he passed, both the array and the restriction crumbled. His demeanor was as if a god had descended. When they saw the person's face clearly, Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden, who were previously filled with murderous intent, were stunned. Their eyes were filled with extreme horror as if they had seen a terrifying existence. It's him. Mad Southern Yi. They could not be more familiar with this name. That day outside Tianyuan City, this person had shocked everyone and killed the young master of the Panwu celestial sect, Hong Ye. He had even snatched the void-soaring dragon pill from them. Whether it was Jiang Li or the heavenly jade holy maiden, although they had left alive, they were glad after the incident. Ever since that day, the name Mad Southern Yi had almost become a shadow in their hearts. However, they did not expect to see Yi Chen again. End of this chapter. Chapter 1538. Yi Chen stood quietly in the air with his hands behind his back. He lifted his head and looked at everyone. He frowned slightly when he saw Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy lady. In the end, his gaze landed on the giant ape and the stone wall of the heavenly stream. There was a small sapling growing out of the crack in the stone. The sapling was only as thick as a thumb, but it had roots that were like a horned dragon that were deeply rooted in the crack in the stone. At the top of the sapling there were 3 fruits hanging. They were only the size of a baby's fist, and they were completely purplish gold in color. Jade fire golden-eyed ape and dragon scale origin fruit? Yi Chen's eyes flashed, and he was subsequently surprised. I didn't expect this to grow here. No wonder the jade fire golden-eyed ape was born. Just as he was thinking, a figure soared into the sky from below, revealing a young man in a purplish gold robe. The young man's eyes shone with lightning as he stared at Yi Chen and said coldly, "Who are you? How dare you barge into the restriction that we set up?" If there were outsiders present, they would definitely realize that this person was the new young master of the Panwu Immortal Sect, Su Mingqi. The Panwu Immortal Sect had 10 true disciples. Hong Ye was originally ranked first, and Su Mingqi was ranked second. However, with the death of the previous young master, Hong Ye, Su Mingqi was naturally promoted to the new young master. Yi Chen did not answer his question. He released his divine consciousness immediately in an attempt to sense the surroundings of the heavenly stream. Little did he know that his attitude had angered Su Mingqi. "You're courting death." Su Mingqi's eyes turned cold, and his killing intent surged. As the young master of the Panwu Immortal Sect, Su Mingqi had always been criticized in the sect. The disciples in the sect even compared him to Hong Ye. Even in the outside world, outsiders looked at him strangely, as if he was not worthy of being the young master of the Panwu Immortal Sect. Because of that, he had been holding it in. Now that he was being betrothed to a nobody like Yi Chen, how could he not be furious? Boom! In an instant, he pressed his palm down fiercely, and a dazzling golden light burst forth, carrying with it a terrifying force as it fiercely attacked. However, the terrifying power disappeared into thin air when it landed on Yi Chen. It was as if it did not harm Yi Chen at all. At that moment, Su Mingqi's pupils constricted. That was the true martial qi that he cultivated, which was extracted from the extreme metal qi. Even a trace of it was enough to kill a late divine transformation cultivator. However, it did not work on Yi Chen. His vigilance skyrocketed as he thought of this, and he secretly sent a message through his divine sense. "Brother Jiang Li, what are you waiting for? Attack together and kill this person." Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden acted as if they did not hear his voice transmission. They did not move at all. Instead, they looked at the former as if they were looking at a dead man. "Brother Su, I'll help you kill this person. Only the divine prince of the Taichu Taoist ground let out a long roar. He turned into a dazzling rainbow and stepped into the sky, as if he wanted to help Su Mingqi. Ant-like thing, don't overestimate yourself. Yi Chen's eyes gleamed and he attacked immediately. A giant golden palm no more than 200 feet in size condensed in his hand, then slammed towards Su Mingqi at lightning speed. One palm, just one palm. The new young master of the Panwu immortal sect had just let out a cry of surprise when he was slapped into a bloody mist before he could react. Brother Su. At the same time, the divine prince of the Taichu Taoist ground, who was charging at Yi Chen, suddenly froze. Then, he stopped in the air less than 30 meters away from Yi Chen. Shock filled the depths of his eyes. Su Mingqi's strength was on par with his, but the former was killed by Yi Chen with a single palm. If it were him, how good would his fate be? Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and turned around to look behind him. He saw Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden standing quietly on the spot as if they had been immobilized. They did not dare to move at all. Chills, endless chills surged into his heart. Yi Chen glanced at him coldly. I heard you want to kill me? Boom. It was just 4 words, but they exploded in the Taichu Taoist ground's divine prince's mind like thunder, causing him to be horrified. Fellow, it's a misunderstanding, is that so? Then it's a misunderstanding that I killed you. Yi Chen placed one hand behind his back and flicked his finger with the other. Bang! The divine prince of the Taichu Taoist ground could not dodge in time. His entire body exploded, and his soul and body turned into dust at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths of time, 2 divine princes from the major sects had died in his hands. They could not resist at all. Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden, who were standing quietly below, gasped at the same time. They were extremely glad that they did not attack Yi Chen because they had the advantage of numbers. It was not just the 2 of them. Even the jade fire golden-eyed ape was crawling on the ground, its enormous body trembling. Yi Chen waved his sleeve immediately and put the dragon scale origin fruit on the stone wall into his pouch a few seconds later. After doing all that, he looked at Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden again before disappearing on the spot. Only then did the jade fire golden-eyed ape muster its courage to escape into the void. Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden heaved a sigh of relief, as if they had been pardoned after confirming that Yi Chen had left. The 2 of them collapsed to the ground and realized that their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Not long after, many figures finally shot over. When they saw the scene clearly, someone could not help but ask, Divine Prince Jiang Li, did you take the dragon scale origin fruit here? Divine Prince Jiang Li, as the saying goes, treasures are rare, and everyone who sees them has a share. Even if you are divine princes from the major sects, you can't monopolize it, right? Many people looked at Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden with green eyes. Monopolize it? Jiang Li's face twitched a few times, and he laughed out of extreme anger. You bunch of ants, why did you appear when I was the most upset? The aura on his body instantly bloomed, and he pounced into the crowd like a peerless god of death. He killed everyone he saw, causing countless screams. Boom! At this moment, several figures descended from the distant sky. The leader said in a deep voice, Brother Jiang Li, why did you lose your composure? It was Luo Xiu, Fang Chengwu, and the others. So it's Brother Luo. Jiang Li retracted his killing intent and looked at the respectful gazes of the people around him. He simply told them everything that had happened. What? Mad Southern Yi who disappeared for a long time has appeared again? He even entered the desolate god's tomb and killed the divine princes of the Panwu celestial sect and the Taichu dojo? Isn't this person wanted by the 5 sacred grounds? How dare he appear under our noses? What's there to be afraid of? Don't forget, this is the desolate god's tomb. Void refinement stage patriarchs can't enter. As soon as he finished speaking, countless gasps instantly arose in the surroundings, and even Luo Xiao and the others were no exception. Luo Xiao took a deep breath and looked at Jiangli with a serious expression. "Brother Jiangli, is what you said true?" Jiangli sneered and said, "Do you think that with my strength and the heavenly jade holy maiden's strength, we can kill Su Mingqi and Su Mingwu so easily? Brother Luo, fellow cultivators, I can prove that what Brother Jiangli said is true," the heavenly jade holy maiden said. Jiangli sighed softly. "With mad Southern Yi in the desolate god's tomb, I'm afraid only Huang Fu you can match him. Brother Jiangli, it's not that I want to pour cold water on you." Luo Xiao's eyes flickered as he said, "How do you know that mad Southern Yi will become enemies with Huang Fuyu? What if the two of them join forces?" As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. Luo Xiao smiled to himself and said, "I have a suggestion. Why don't we form an alliance and join forces in the desolate god's tomb? At that time, no matter if we encounter Huang Fu Yu or mad Southern Yi, we won't be in such a passive position." Alliance? Jiang Li and the heavenly jade holy maiden looked at each other. Then, the former seemed to have realized something and said, "All right, let's form an alliance." Upon seeing this, Luo Xiao immediately said, "Brother Jiangli, I believe you all know that my martial uncle was killed by an external helper with the surname Yi hired by the Heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to take revenge." He paused for a moment and looked at Jiang Li and the others with a burning gaze. "Therefore, I hope that Brother Jiang Li and the others can help me kill this person." Jiang Li frowned slightly and said, "I've heard about this. With Brother Luo's ability, it shouldn't be difficult for you to kill this person with the surname Yi, right? Why do you need us to do it?" He did not want to be used. "Brother Jiang, you might not know," Luo Xiao immediately told him about Yi Chen chatting happily with Huang Fuyu at the entrance of the desolate god's tomb. Hearing this, Jiang Li's pupils constricted slightly, and then he said, "Forget it, I'll join forces with you and kill this person first." "I'll join too." The heavenly jade holy maiden chuckled. They knew very well that if Huang Fuyu was powerful and someone else formed an alliance with him, they would really not be able to obtain anything in the desolate god's tomb. Especially Jiang Li, he thought to himself, both of them have the surname Yi. In this world, only mad Southern Yi can't be offended. I don't believe that other people with the surname Yi are so powerful. P.S. It's another year of college entrance examination. I wish my book friends the best results, and all of you can be admitted to key universities such as 985 and 211, changing your fate for the next few decades. Chapter 1539. In the dark ruins forbidden area, demonic chi overflowed into the sky. It was as if extreme darkness had descended into the world, wanting to turn the entire world into purgatory. Within the endless demonic chi, there were many demonic creatures venting and roaring, as if they carried all the hatred and scenery in the world. This was the demonic earth, a forbidden area for life. At the center of the demonic earth stood a divine hall. The divine hall was grand and imposing, and divine light shot into the sky. It was majestic, as if a god was coldly looking at the purgatory-like demonic earth. At this moment, within the divine hall, a giant ape covered in jade-green flames was crawling on the ground. It seemed to have been suppressed by its bloodline and was trembling. In front of it, there was a mysterious creature standing proudly. "Are you saying that they still found a flaw in the seal of the desolate god's tomb?" This creature looked like an ape and spoke in the human tongue. Its entire body was covered in golden fur that flickered with light. Although its body was not tall, only 5 feet tall, it gave off a disdainful aura as it stood there, as if it could grab the stars and the moon. If one looked closely, they would discover that there was a golden toad lying on its shoulder. The toad's brows were filled with eagerness, as if it was unwilling to be left out. "Ancestor!" The jade-fire golden-eyed ape that was crawling on the ground nodded repeatedly. It immediately told him everything it had seen and heard in the desolate god's tomb, not daring to hide anything. "These idiots!" The mysterious creature's body suddenly blossomed with golden light, and a fierce aura surged out from its body. Back then, the great desolation old man charged into the forbidden area to challenge Boss. Although the former risked his life to escape, he was definitely infected by the demonic earth. These idiots actually coveted his inheritance. From the looks of it, the desolate god's tomb has probably already been invaded by demonic chi. If these idiots forcefully open the seal, they will only release the source of all evil. At that time, the entire dark ruins will be enveloped by the demonic earth. At this point, the mysterious creature let out a low roar. The golden fur on its body stood on end, and its eyes shot out divine flames, as if it wanted to pierce through space. Sensing such power, the jade fire golden-eyed ape that was crawling on the ground trembled even more violently, as if it would collapse at any time. At the crucial moment, the golden toad on the mysterious living being's shoulder said, "Second brother, if I'm not wrong, old man Great Desolation must have been infected by the demonic soil. These people are going to be unlucky. Hee, this young master is looking forward to the scene of a demonic corpse suddenly jumping out of old man Great Desolation's coffin." It grinned happily and wished for the world to be in chaos. Then, it seemed to have thought of something. "Unfortunately, that ye fellow is also inside. I hope he can escape this calamity. I'm more concerned about Huang Fuyu." The mysterious being's eyes flickered, and it said indifferently, "Boss once said that this child's bloodline is the closest to great Emperor Xuanyuan's, and it is very likely that he will be acknowledged by the Xianyuan sword. Before Boss went into seclusion, he told us to take good care of him." "Huang Fuyu?" The golden toad pursed its lips and said nonchalantly, "I don't like that brat. I like that guy with the surname Yi." Before it could finish, it felt the entire divine hall suddenly shake, as if the sky was about to collapse. The demonic soil is in turmoil again. The mysterious being's expression changed slightly. It then pierced through space and rushed out of the divine hall. It stood proudly in the sky above the endless demonic aura, and its eyes surged with divine fire as it stared at the demonic soil. There was the faint roar of a peerless ferocious creature, and there was also a saber gleam that seemed to be able to split the sky and earth. The saber gleam was extremely bright, so bright that it was blinding. "It's that saber again." The golden toad's expression was grim as it spoke. "Over the past few days, this saber has killed many terrifying existences in the demonic soil. It's all thanks to it. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for the two of us to withstand it." "What exactly is that saber? It can even make the Xianyuan sword hum uncontrollably?" The mysterious being's eyes were like two scorching suns. It then said, "Third brother, stay here and guard the Emperor's tomb. I'll go to the wilderness god's tomb and stop all of this." "Don't. Who am I going to talk to if you leave?" The golden toad was instantly displeased. However, before it could finish speaking, a gaze that resembled a river of blood shot over. It was so frightened that it immediately swallowed the second half of its sentence. The mysterious being retracted its gaze and was about to hide in the demonic aura. However, at that moment, a figure slowly walked out from the endless black fog. It was a young man in a green robe. The young man held a book in his hand and his expression was calm. Like a weak scholar, he ignored the demonic aura's invasion. "It's you again!" The mysterious being immediately stopped and its gaze was cold. At the same time, countless golden lumps appeared all over the golden toad's body, as if it felt extremely threatened. "Second brother, hurry and call the boss out. Don't panic." The young man smiled and said, "I have no ill intentions this time. I just want you two to stay in the Emperor's tomb." "You want to stop me from going to the wilderness god's tomb?" The mysterious being instantly saw through the former's intention. "What's your goal? Do you want to see the demonic soil corrode everything and destroy your only living space?" "Of course not." The young man's expression was calm as he said, "I just want to verify a fact. Is that person's eyesight better or mine is? After saying that, he glanced at the Emperor's tomb. Do you want to sit back and watch the battle between that person surnamed Yi and Huang Fuyu? The mysterious being's eyes flickered. Aren't you overestimating that person surnamed Yi? Huang Fuyu is a member of the 8 Xianyuan races. He has the Emperor's bloodline, so he's most likely to inherit the Xianyuan sword and the Emperor's inheritance. Xianyuan sword? The young man smiled faintly and looked at the endless demonic aura calmly. Is it as powerful as that saber? At the same time, in the southeast corner of the wilderness god's tomb, in the silent forest, a group of about 10 people was walking silently. The leader was a silver-haired young man. The silver-haired young man walked at a moderate pace. Although his calm and composed aura was extremely otherworldly, it caused many people behind him to secretly complain. Ever since they entered the wilderness god's tomb, they had walked hundreds of kilometers, and that person did not say where they were going. As if sensing their doubts, the silver-haired young man suddenly stopped and said calmly, "If you want to leave, you can leave on your own. There's no need to follow me anymore." Many people were secretly delighted when they heard that. Someone could not help but ask because of the former's dignity, "Brother Yu, what about you?" "I have a place to go," the silver-haired young man said calmly. Seeing that he was unwilling to say more, the crowd immediately left. Only a woman remained. She was in her early 20s and was extremely beautiful. There was a hint of hidden love in her eyes as she looked at the silver-haired young man. At that moment, a figure suddenly flew over from afar. End of this chapter. Chapter 1540. The silver-haired young man stretched out his hand and waved it. It then turned into a jade slip in his hand. Mad Southern Yi is suspected to have appeared in the desolate god's tomb. He killed the 2 gods' sons of the Panwu immortal sect and the Taichu dojo in the southwest corner of the desolate god's tomb. Everyone, be careful. The silver-haired young man calmly read the information on the jade slip. The 4 Holy Lands have formed an alliance to deal with me, Huang Fuyu. They have also set up an inescapable trap to kill the external help Fang Ziyue invited. Fang Ziyue? Someone with the surname Yi? Huang Fuyu's eyes flickered as he muttered. When the woman beside him heard these words, she immediately said, "Brother Yu, Fang Ziyue is the person behind the person we talked to at the entrance of the desolate god's tomb." "It's her?" Hearing this, Huang Fuyu's brows furrowed. Then, as if he had thought of something, a smile appeared on his face. "So you're worried that that person will form an alliance with me, so you plan to deal with that person first? However, I'm afraid you've chosen the wrong opponent. I wish you all good luck." He smiled slightly, and the jade slip in his hand immediately burned without any fire. Near the northwest of the desolate god's tomb, many figures flickered on a steep mountain. Then, they spread out in an orderly manner and hid in the void. Vaguely, there seemed to be a large formation set up in the surroundings, enveloping the entire mountain. The figures from before had hidden themselves extremely well, and their auras had been restrained to the minimum. If there were outsiders present, they would definitely discover that these figures were all at the peak of the soul formation stage. At that moment, the sky gradually darkened, as if night was about to fall. A bone-piercing cold wind wreaked havoc in the entire mountain. "Be careful. Our goal this time is only the external help that Fang Ziyue invited. Don't harm Fang Ziyue at all." In the silent void, a cold voice rang out, "Otherwise, I won't be responsible for causing trouble." "Don't worry, fellow Luo, we know what to do." Hearing this, many figures hidden in the void immediately nodded. The void fell into dead silence once again. Sigh, after an unknown period of time, 2 streams of light shot over from the distant horizon. It was Fang Ziyue and the Heavenly Jade Holy Land's disciple, Yunxi. Yunxi held a spirit stone in her hand. As she replenished her spirit power, she asked, "Big Sister Ziyue, where are we going? Didn't Senior Yi tell us to wait for him?" "To the northwest." Fang Ziyue stood on a cloud shuttle with fluttering ribbons. She looked like a celestial maiden that had descended to the mortal world. I've already left a message for Senior Yi. I believe that if he sees it, he will head over to meet up with us. The thing she entered the desolate god's tomb to find was in the northwest corner of the desolate god's tomb. How could she sit back and watch as time passed? How could she sit back and watch as Fong Qing, Wu Qing, and the other branches of the heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce beat her to it? Yunxi made an "oh" sound, then looked at Yunxi again and said intentionally or unintentionally, "Sister Ziyue, who exactly is this Senior Yi? How is he so powerful?" That Taoist Feng Yang is at the great perfection of deity transformation, but he was unable to resist Senior Yi. Yi Chen's technique had truly shocked her. If not for the iron rule that forbade void refinement cultivators from entering the desolate god's tomb, she would even suspect that Yi Chen was a void refinement old monster. Fang Ziyue's lips moved slightly. Just when she was about to speak, her beautiful eyes could not help but look down at the huge mountain below. Although the huge mountain below was extremely quiet, for some reason she felt a faint sense of danger. She was not a greenhorn. Over time, she had developed an extremely cautious intuition, and this intuition had saved her countless times. Thinking to this point, she paused and lowered her head to look down again. She was extremely cautious and did not dare to go down. Seeing that she had suddenly stopped, Yunxi stopped as well. She asked in confusion, "Big Sister Ziyue, what's wrong?" At that moment, the sense of danger in Fang Ziyue's heart increased again. She immediately activated the cloud shuttle and said, "Oh no, there's danger. Attack." As soon as she finished speaking, a cold voice suddenly rang out in the silent space. Boom! Boom! In the next moment, countless pillars of light shot into the sky and turned into a light curtain, sealing the space where Fang Ziyue and Yunxi were. Bang! Fang Ziyue slammed the light curtain heavily. Not only did she fail to shake the light curtain, but she even staggered from the impact and almost fell. On the other hand, Yunxi had long since been shocked by this sudden scene. "I wonder which fellow Taoists are making things difficult for us?" Fang Ziyue took a deep breath in and suppressed the panic in her. She looked at the sky and said, "I'm Fang Ziyue from the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce's Purple Faction. I wonder which fellow Taoists are making things difficult for us?" "Sister Ziyue, calm down." Subsequently, a voice that seemed to be laughing came from the void. Then, over 10 figures appeared before Fang Ziyue like ghosts. The person who laughed was Fang Qingwu. Beside him stood Luo Xiu, Jiang Li, the Heavenly Jade Holy Lady, and the rest. The Heavenly Jade Holy Lady glanced at Yun Shi, who was stunned, and said coldly, "Yun Shi, what are you waiting for?" "Fang Qingwu, so it's you guys." When Fang Ziyue saw their faces clearly, the huge boulder in her heart was relieved. However, she still said coldly, "What? Don't tell me you don't have confidence in this assessment, so you're trying to kill me in the desolate god's tomb?" If someone else had trapped her, she might have been worried about her life. However, it was different if it was Fang Qingwu. Both of them were members of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce. They did not dare to violate the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce's ban on self-harm. At this point, she looked coldly at Luo Xiu, Jiang Li, and the rest. Her expression changed slightly. "You guys really have a big lineup. Sister Ziyue, you're wrong." Fang Qingwu looked at her with a faint smile. "You and I are both members of the Tianyuan Chamber of Commerce. Why would I kill you? I just want to play a game with you." "A game?" Fang Ziyue smiled coldly. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Fang Qingwu, you must be trying to use me to deal with someone by making such a big fuss." As soon as she finished speaking, a thought suddenly flashed in her mind. She then looked at Fang Qingwu. "So you want to use me to deal with Senior Yi?" Clap, clap, clap. As a round of applause rang out, Luo Xiu clapped while looking at her and said, "Miss Fang is really smart. You actually figured out our purpose so quickly." As his voice fell, Fang Ziyue's face suddenly turned extremely pale. She did not expect that what she was worried about from the beginning would happen. Moreover, Luo Xiu had actually joined forces with the divine son of the great Jiang divine dynasty, the heavenly Jade Holy Lady, and many other forces to gather here. End of this chapter. Chapter 1541. In the depths of the desolate god's tomb, in the dangerous forest. Boom. As blood splattered, the void was torn apart. A figure bathed in golden light killed a giant python that was over 60 meters long with a single palm strike. That figure was Yi Chen. Yi Chen glanced at the lightning python on the ground. After removing its beast core and gallbladder, he looked around. His eyes flickered. I've been searching for almost 2 hours, but I still haven't found Fang Ziyue. After he returned with the dragon scale origin fruit, he received a message from Fang Ziyue's divine consciousness. He was told to look for her in the northwest corner of the desolate god's tomb. However, Yi Chen walked through the entire northwest corner, but he did not find Fang Ziyue. Not only that, but many people who entered the desolate god's tomb had mysteriously disappeared. With Fang Ziyue's ability and identity, no one will target her unless it's absolutely necessary. Yi Chen headed in another direction immediately as he thought to this point. After he left, there were several figures gathered at a place not far away from where he had stayed previously. They were all dressed in the same attire, and it was clear that they were from the same faction. Why does that person look familiar? A middle-aged man among them looked at Yi Chen's retreating figure and said while deep in thought, "Why do I feel like I've seen him somewhere before?" Senior brother, your old habit of looking at everyone familiar is happening again. Beside the middle-aged man, a young man consumed a medicinal pill. As he replenished his vitality, he complained, "It's said that there are countless treasures in the desolate god's tomb, but we've been here for almost 4 hours. We haven't even seen bird poop, let alone cow hair." "What do you know?" The middle-aged man glared at him and said, "Have you forgotten what Luo Xiu, God's son of great Jiang, Jiang Li, and the rest said? Someone stole the treasure they wanted, so they offered a reward of 10 million spirit stones for us to help find that person. That's 10 million spirit stones. If we get it, we'll still have leftovers after splitting it evenly." At this point, the middle-aged man was extremely envious. "But we have to be capable to find that person." The young man from before mumbled, "Don't forget that the person who could snatch the treasure from the hands of Jiang Li and the others isn't someone we can imagine. Moreover, didn't Jiang Li and the others capture Miss Fang Ziyue to force that person to appear?" Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly discovered that the temperature in this space had suddenly dropped, and his senior brother was staring at something behind him with widened eyes. What happened? The young man was stunned at first, and then he seemed to realize something. He immediately turned around and saw a young man in black standing quietly behind him. Who are you?" The young man was shocked at first. Then, just as he was about to make a move, he realized that the young man's speed was even faster than his. The young man's hand reached out and grabbed the young man's neck, lifting him in midair. Yi Chen stared at him coldly and said calmly, "Did you just say that Jiang Li and the rest captured Fang Ziyue?" At that moment, everyone, including the middle-aged man, finally snapped back to their senses. They looked at Yi Chen in shock and said, "Why, you're the helper that Miss Fang hired? Don't kill me." The young man who was lifted into the air by Yi Chen was horrified. He stammered immediately, "Jiang Li and the rest did capture Miss Fang Ziyue. They've also spread the news that they want you to save her. Otherwise, they'll kill Miss Fang Ziyue." "Where is it?" Yi Chen asked. It's on a huge mountain near the northwest." Bang! Yi Chen tossed him out and disappeared from where he was in a flash. The killing intent in his eyes was dense. "Jiang Li, I've spared your life twice. You really won't die if you don't ask for it." On a huge mountain near the northwest of the desolate god's tomb. At that moment, many figures had gathered on the mountain. Many cultivators from all over had gathered there, and they looked at the few silhouettes in the air at the same time. In the air, Jiang Li, Luo Xiu, the heavenly jade saint, and the rest stood proudly. They had cold expressions on their faces, and they seemed rather impatient. On the other hand, Fang Ziyue did not move at all. It was as if someone had done something to her body. She could not move at all, but there was a trace of worry in the depths of her flickering beautiful eyes. It's been 2 hours, but Miss Fang's reinforcements haven't arrived yet. Could it be that they're afraid and don't dare to come? I think so too. After all, his opponents this time are Luo Xiu, Jiang Li, and the rest. No matter who it is, they're all outstanding talents of the younger generation. In this generation, I'm afraid only Huang Fuyu and that mad Southern Yi can suppress them, right? Coincidentally, both of them are Chinese. All sorts of discussions could be heard in the crowd. Luo Xiu and the rest in the air acted as if they did not hear anything. Buzz, as the air trembled, Luo Xiu slowly took a step forward. His gloomy and sharp gaze sized up the crowd below, then he looked at Jiang Li and the rest and said, "Brother Jiang Li, looks like this Yi really doesn't dare to come. This outcome is not beyond my expectations." Jiang Li's expression was calm, and he did not look disappointed at all. After all, the culprit of this matter was Luo Xiu, and he was just going through the motions. This cunning brat. Luo Xiu's gaze turned cold as he sneered. He's lucky to have escaped this calamity. However, if he thinks that he can sit back and relax, then he's gravely mistaken. I'll capture him sooner or later. After saying that, his gaze could not help but land on Fang Ziyue. He said with a spurious smile, "Ms. Fang, I don't know if I should say that you're lucky or unlucky. You're lucky that we didn't intend to kill you from the beginning. Unfortunately, the reinforcements you hired only cares about his own interests and doesn't consider your safety at all. How sad." He had evil intentions. Seeing that he could not kill Yi Chen immediately, he came up with a second plan. He wanted to sow discord between Yi Chen and Fang Ziyue. If that happened, Fang Ziyue would definitely not help Yi Chen when he encountered him again. "Luo, you don't have to sow discord." However, Fang Ziyue saw through his thoughts and said with a sneer, "At the end of the day, I don't have much of a relationship with Senior Yi. At most, we're just employees. It's understandable that he won't come to save me. I can only say that your wishful thinking has failed." As she spoke to this point, she seemed to be gloating. Luo Xiu frowned. Just when he was about to remove the restriction in Fang Ziyue's body, a golden rainbow that pierced through heaven and earth suddenly shot over from the distant horizon. Wherever he passed, there would be lightning and the void would explode. It was as if he had triggered the wrath of the heavens and the earth. At the same time, a cold voice shook heaven and earth. "I've always kept my promises. Since I said that I'll protect you, I'll definitely protect you." End of this chapter.